left side of your house with the.
But they are also,
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the.
they're also the largest
east side of it.
in their field, what they do. So it's not like the first thing.
It's on the east side, it's the Yeah.
Board, you ready to get started?
I am. Yep.
All right, so this is the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the Seven Oaks Community Development District being held Wednesday, August 11th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. Seven Oaks Clubhouse located at 2910 Sports Court Circle, Wesley Chapel, Florida 33544. Present representing quorum, we have our chairman, Jack Christensen, here. Assistant Secretary is Lauren O'Donnell.
Here.
Tom Graff. Here. And Sean Grace. Here. Our district council, we have Vanessa Steinertz. Clubhouse manager, we have Teresa Flores. Our maintenance manager, John Gentilla. And myself, Taylor Wilson, with district management. This time we'll move into audience comments. Audience comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Begin with Mr. Patrick Mullen.
Just real quick, I have some comments about S19. I haven't heard a whole lot from anyone in terms of what's up with S19. I was hoping to hear a lot tonight when I came, and this is an update on my group that I put together. You guys definitely a number of issues that I think would be useful addressing and speaking out against them. And I guess my real question is, so what's new? And that's my key.
So that'll be a discussion point in the agenda today. So we'll go ahead and let the board discuss that here shortly. Unless there's anything you want to add in addition to what you provided.
The other issue that I was, thinking of was working with John, in terms of communication. John's been, really, pushing, leading, an effort with the, residents committee. Residents committee, as official or unofficial as that may be. And we're looking to, establish better communications. And it came across my mind, don't we have something already in place, Town Square? We're all familiar with Town Square? Okay. I wasn't until about a month ago, really. And, other than paying money, that's about the one thing I was using it for. I had inquired as to whether that could be used as well for informing the whole Seven Oaks community about S19 activities, not to exclude other things that come up in the future. And I'm not clear as to whether Town Square is something that CDD authorized, pays for, or whether that's something that's run strictly out of SOTA. So, can I get an answer?
That's why that's so
SOTA? Okay. Because it would be useful to, since it's already an established vehicle and tool, why reinvent the wheel and put up another page, another website, or whatever. So maybe we can make some use of that and complete or add some email addresses to that to help complete the set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Ted Rhodes.
I want to stay focused and concentrated, so I wrote out my comments. My name is Theodore Rhodes. I reside at 3517 Grassgate Place in Grassland, where we have lived full-time since 2014. We had the house built there in 2008. I want to speak tonight about the chronically poor performance of CDD managed projects. I speak from a background of 38 years as a licensed contractor, 45 years as a licensed real estate broker, 5 years as an HOA president with OSHA and PMP certifications, and an MBA. I have built, repaired, or managed multiple pools, homes, low and high-rise office buildings, district heating and cooling plants, schools, and all types of commercial and industrial facilities. The available information regarding the current lab pool set indicates that in addition to numerous pipe leaks, required equipment foundations are missing. The repair work will not commence until April 2022 at the earliest. If this turns out to be true, it is likely that the existing pool shell will have to be demolished and a new replacement built. Unfilled pools routinely pop out of the ground and often suffer irreparable structural damage from the unopposed ground pressure pressing in against the pool wall. Obviously, this is unnecessary, extremely expensive, and a direct result of poor project management. Unfortunately, this is not the first Box 70 CDD construction project. First, there was the never-ending tree project, then the slide repair, then the bathroom, and now the lap pool and water park. What do these projects have in common? Busted schedules, defective work, bad contractors, cost overruns, paying double, and managed by the CDD board. Problems happen in construction. That is normal and expected. But the chronic reappearance of similar issues reflects inadequate and substandard project planning, design, supervision, and management. Personnel that have been assigned oversight responsibilities are not responsible for repeated failures. Rather, it is obvious they have not been properly trained for these responsibilities. However, those in charge have been derelict in their fiduciary obligation to the Seven Oaks owners in not securing proper oversight and supervision for district projects. The responsible parties would therefore include at least the CDD board, its attorneys, accountants, and the district's engineer. Use of industry standard engagement, oversight, approval, and inspection procedures should have eliminated or mitigated most, if not all, of the outstanding issues. As an aside, I offer to assist CDD project oversight on a pro bono basis. If I offered or was not acted upon. I applied to accede to the recently vacated board seat, but someone else was chosen. In any event, the district should find and secure qualified construction and real estate project oversight as soon as possible to ensure the current problems are resolved efficiently and not repeated yet again. Finally, this obvious management malfeasance has occurred. Whether it has risen to the level of gross negligence is yet to be determined. If so, personal liability for all damages caused by such negligence could accrue to the guilty parties. Worse though, is that these issues will continue to reoccur unless major changes are made promptly. I'm not very happy about the situation.
So let me just ask directly, what would you suggest is done right now? What are you asking of us?
For starters, if this is true about the pool and nothing in having for 4 months, something has to be done to eliminate that. I know there's issues with COVID. I know there's issues with contractors. I know that. I've dealt with that for many, many years. But the problem we've gotten ourselves into has been germinated for 3 or 4 years, way before COVID came in. So, we're now here, and we're here. How do we get back to that there?
Well, I'm just asking for specifics because we have just a few minutes.
Okay.
For you.
Couple things I think. One, I would inquire to the engineer as to how this stuff could be done if they're supposedly overseeing and inspecting this stuff. Two, I would get on them and say, you caused it, you didn't inspect the public, get your rear in gear and get this squared away. I don't care what you have to do, you gotta find somebody, you gotta do it now. Two, I would get a hold of the attorney and say to them, we got this problem, have we done what we're supposed to do? Have the contractors not? We gotta go after them as well. Three, I would find somebody, a contractor, a management consultant, a construction consultant, somebody who has the background, authority, and contacts to get initial corrective issues taken care of. I mean, every time we go around the community, you hear constantly about how we didn't get the pool for a year, and now it's gonna be another year. We can't use this, we can't use that, the slide, and everything costs a fortune. And there doesn't seem to be any urgency to get it resolved. There's always, well, we'll talk to this, we'll talk to but, and then communication is minimal at best. Basically, somebody has to take this on as a focused and almost sole job to get the issues resolved and start getting the construction taken care of, and communicate on a constant and ongoing basis with the ownership,
So I would,
off the top of my head.
okay, so you talked a lot in generalities. We're here every month, and then sometimes more if we're working on different projects. So I'll just tell you, there is a lot of attention. This year is a different year than most. We've called over 25 vendors to try to get this pool fixed. There's not many people that do that level of job. So I'm not gonna go through the history of it, but we have made changes. Last meeting, we actually addressed it so that we work in a little more communication within our team here. So all we are volunteers, basically. You know, we get paid a little bit, but we're basically trying to just put our time to do what's right for the community. So I take personal, I don't like how you talked to us about everything. Let me talk.
Okay.
So you're not here every week. You talk from generality that everything sucks. It doesn't. I would tell you there's a long list of great things that we've done, including saving the community money, refinancing the bond. I don't know if you're aware of that, but there's a whole slew of things. I think I would encourage you to look at both positive and negative. The pool thing sucks. We want it to be fixed soon too. If you want to be more of a part of it, I encourage you to come every month. We would enlist your help where we can, but if you're not officially on the board,
I used
it's
to come every month. I was one of the 2 or 3 people that did.
and that's great. That's what we want. We want more.
But it got to the point where
We're trying to work on better communication, but if we don't have an update on the pool when it's ongoing, there's not much to communicate.
well, but you can't tell me I only talk about the one thing. You get 3 months, 3 minutes to speak. I can't go through everything else and then hit everything.
Right.
Was it difficult? No, what I said, rough? Absolutely. I've been, in construction forever.
I heard.
I started 7 years old, I'm 3rd generation.
Let me ask Vanessa to speak to you about a thing that our attorneys have gone after the vendor that's been involved with the pool, is the insurance going against him. She's gonna have a recommendation to get, why don't you explain to him what we talked about
I
earlier?
think that's gonna come up later
Yeah.
on in the meeting. I don't wanna get too,
What?
I
You
think
know,
because
this year,
we'll need full board input
Right.
and direction on that.
Yeah,
But I will say that we are addressing that from a legal perspective when we're looking at different options. as to-
Yeah, unfortunately, I appreciate that. Unfortunately, as you know, when you go after the bonding agent and the bonding surety to get it paid, that is an extremely time-consuming process. And while they will live up to the bond, and that's almost absolute. The question really always comes down to when. That could easily be a year or 2 or 3 by the time they actually perform. I've seen this bonding.
well, we're between a rock and a hard spot, that she has contacted, I would think, 15 to 20 different pool companies in this area.
Here's my issue, and it's nothing against Teresa, she's a very nice lady, that's the problem. You can't have the normal,
Nice people.
the normal, people who you do business with, it's gotta be escalated. It's gotta be somebody who they think is gonna hit them over the head with a baseball bat to get their attention.
Yeah, we addressed that last meeting. So I love that you came today. I want to get as much feedback from the community. I want more people to come. So I'm just asking you come with solutions. So, I mean, you didn't know half the story for some of these things that we probably could have talked about before the meeting, or you could have called either one of these two.
I called Teresa and talked to her.
Okay.
I sent her something else when I offered to do it.
Okay.
She said she couldn't do it, it has to go to Taylor. I sent him something, I called it, and I basically didn't hear anything back.
Okay.
So I tried to.
Okay.
So this is my third time through. So I agree with you. Again, I was the president of HOA for 5 years.
Right.
So I've been on your side of the board, the table. So I understand that entirely.
Yeah.
So I tried to go through the channels. It didn't work. So the bottom line is it needs to get fixed. What am I doing? I mean, I granted, the refinancing of the bond was great.
Yeah.
I knew that. I was here when they did that. I participated in the discussions and developing the basis of the discussions for the buying of the next door, the Crown property.
Right.
I was very active in that. I've been active in a number of the various things. So,
That's right. I'll share my contact info with you too if you ever have questions. I'm happy to talk on the side. I mean, a lot of these things are just, you talk very broad, so it's kind of difficult to address every little thing. But some of those we address later.
Yeah, we need to move on. We're gonna address most of this stuff later on in the meeting, the pools, everything. I did share your information with Jack, and I know you'd be here today, so I want you to have the opportunity to present. Obviously, if you would like to make any kind of formal offer to work pro bono.
I've already done it.
I mean, we've generally discussed it, but yeah, we can
I
discuss it further.
I sent Teresa a long thing.
Okay.
She said you just sent it. So I went through in detail. I said,
Okay. Well,
so I've done that. That was like a month
the
ago.
board's started out as well. If you guys want a resume or something that, so you can actually review it, we can get that information.
Well, you have a resume because when
Well, I have what Taylor gave me a couple days ago.
So,
Okay. And you have my resume because I went to be asked to be on the board. I sent
right,
the
that's true,
resume.
I do have that.
So you have a resume, so you've seen it.
Yeah, so I can provide that, and if the board wants to discuss that further, then I'll let them bring that to attention. So moving forward for the finance comments portion, John, did you want to mention anything that you haven't already shared with the board?
Yes, please. And it may be stuff that more shared with the board. So the first one's the playgrounds. I reached out to each of you. I got one response back. So I don't know if that's how it's normally done, but like with the CD or the Board of County Commissioners, we have the planning committee. You know, I pepper them as well, like for S19 and that kind of stuff. I get the same type of response. Some people respond, some people don't. So I know that you guys don't have to formally respond to me, and that's totally cool. But as long as I know that you got it, so that, you know, the information is being relayed. The playgrounds, you know, John does a great job of fixing what he can, but whenever the structure itself, the base is falling apart, whenever the metal is exposed, and that's where kids' hands go, whenever they get off the brand new ladders, you know, that's just not, it's not good for our environment, not good for our community.
So can I stop you right there real quick? What is the, didn't we talk about that in the next budget?
Not that way, you're talking about in the villages, right?
Correct, all the village playgrounds.
Yeah, so I think, John, for that, I think that is something that we have tabled for a later point in time.
Awesome.
Just because we know that's something that needs to be done as we continue to get a little bit older. So that is something that I think we have coming down the pipe.
Cool, that's great. And I'm gonna keep to my 3 minutes, and I know that the schedule today is pretty stacked, and I don't expect you to reply back to me. I'm gonna treat this just like in the Board of County Commissioners. I say something, then I sit down, and I'll try to stay quiet the entire time. It's really hard.
Well, I relayed your concerns to John, and he and I both agreed that going forward on projects like this, so we're not in a knee-jerk reaction to get something done that is not fully thought through, that we would set up a long-term vision of how we want to replace playground equipment on a neat basis over multi-year. Because we do have money in the fund,
Yes, sir.
to cover playground equipment, so it's not a matter of just a few things are broken, go out and replace the whole playground set. It'll be done in more uniform way.
And that's why I provided the pictures to demonstrate that it's the core components of it. It isn't like, hey, there's a ladder here, and there's places where you don't like the entire, nonetheless. I passed on the information, I appreciate your consideration. The last part, I was gonna tell you guys, hey, I'm on your team, right? I'm on Team CDD, Team Teresa, Team John. When people start talking smack, I'm the first one to say, hey, there's an alternate side. Oh, it's always down. No, that's not true. It was actually working for a week. Me and my kids, we got to partake in the slide. It's just that something happened that triggered a new event. And sometimes all of that information, no matter how much I try to put it out there into the public, people still have this idea of, oh, it's the board and the mismanagement and stuff. So I try and see both positions, right? I think that just like today, I observed, there's things about the pool and how it's gonna pop out possibly, and how the sun's being exposed to a portion of the pool that should not be exposed to direct sunlight, and how there's going to be a need for acid washing, and possibly the acid washing won't work. Now you're gonna have to, re-marcite or do whatever the construction terms are to make the pool back to what it's supposed to be. You had asked earlier, don't talk about generalities. What specifically are you asking for? What I would ask for is some way to fix the government process. And I've worked in government for 23 years, so I'm very familiar with all of the ins and outs of it. You guys only meet, officially 12 times a year, right? Sometimes you get a special meeting. There needs to be some way to communicate, the urgency, like you had said earlier, so that these topics, especially when it comes to high-level budget amounts, like, hey, I've reached my max limit. I need board approval now. Great, it's the beginning of the month, so I gotta wait out, 21 days until the next board meeting. There's issues like that somehow there has to be a way to fix it. It may not, pool doesn't qualify for quality of life or something like that under the 3 conditions for when an emergency meeting can be scheduled, and it takes 7 days to do it, and the notices, and et cetera, et cetera. There's all these rules. There's gotta be some way to fix the communication so that whenever Teresa's dealing with a project, she doesn't get stymied and said, well, I just gotta wait until the next board meeting because we can't all talk unless everyone's present. There's gotta be some way to fix that. I don't have that answer because I don't know the rules in depth as much as I'm trying to. So that's my only suggestion. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you.
John, thank you for that. Actually, one of my points I wanted to bring up was hopefully we can start some workshops to where if there's something like the pool we need to gather, or the playgrounds, for instance, if that turns into a project, maybe we can do workshops where it is open to the public and we can all kind of meet if it needs to be before the next one.
And a workshop can be scheduled, but no decisions can be made until the next actual board meeting.
Okay. Good job.
We can have a discussion.
Hopefully town square could be used to bring more people into communications.
Yeah, so who can I talk to?
Sure, thank you. Sorry.
I'm happy to try to figure it out with someone, but who can I talk to about how we can communicate better? Because I've said that point too. It's like, it's not a secret, but I don't think
Well,
people
it depends on
know.
where we're communicating, but I think Teresa has a multitude of platforms that she generally broadcasts on, as well as utilizing the resident council for.
Yeah.
We have our own website, so that would really be it's good to have an official, resource. If
I
we
think
want to
I think the
have a question.
communication that Ted was referred to in John is we're hamstrung because of sunshine laws to bang ideas back and forth and discuss these issues. We're just not allowed to do it.
Yeah, as far as decisions being made, there's not really anything else you can do, other than board meeting.
You
So we
can't
can have,
have the communication. You
Right.
can't even communicate.
right.
So we can't even post on that website, right? Town square.
Well, we can post from, like, I could send something in from the board or something like that, or, Teresa or whatever, but you guys can't have any dialogue. There can't be spending discussions that is important.
No, I love some of the stuff she's put out, like, I feel like there's more to be done, or I don't know how to get to more people.
If there's problems, can't you have like special meetings? So you're not just once a month till you get the problem resolved. Or have more frequent
But
meetings.
there's also
when all that
advertising
problems are-
required and noticing and.
Well, then schedule more meetings temporarily until problems are resolved. I mean, if you don't need it, you don't need it, but if you need it, and that's the only way you can do it, I think you can't just say, well, that's all we can do.
No, sometimes we get different board members' authority, like if Teresa's waiting on an answer for some vendor. If she gets it and it's above or below this level, that one of us could approve it between meetings and things like that. So we try to work with it, because it is cumbersome to wait a whole month sometimes, so.
Yeah, I don't think there's been anything that I've seen that's like, we need this fixed right now, we can't authorize it, we don't have, you know what I mean? Like, other than major contracts, like selecting a new vendor to fix the whole project, you know what I mean, which needs to be a board discussion, not a one person deal, so. Right, Mr. Harding, thank you for waiting.
I don't stand, because,
Sure.
can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm having trouble. feel free to remove your mask.
Well, let me try, and if you can't, I'll get a little closer, and if I have to, I will. It'll be very brief. First of all, thank you so much for allowing me to be here tonight. My wife wanted to be here, but she can't make it. What I wanted to talk to you about, as you know, we're putting a pool in our house, and when we were here last month, it was pretty clear that we needed to do some homework. So this wonderful gentleman here came and talked to me about several issues, and we had a nice conversation. And he recommended that I come in and talk to you folks and see if we could work something out. Unfortunately, the pool's going to start fairly soon, so I probably need a decision fairly quickly. So when you mentioned to us that we just can't arbitrarily go on that empty lot next to us, we heard you. So we got our pool folk out, and we started looking down the other side next to our neighbor. And I just want to take a second. I have a new neighbor. I don't know that he's been introduced. And I just want to say thank you.
Moved in late.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So
You guys did a great job.
This is the first lot in Farragut, right on the right.
it's the fifth house in. It's next to the open lot. So what happened was they looked at it and they said, John, we're going to have a hard time. And I was talking to our neighbor, simply because they have their water valve right smack where you go down. We have our reclaimed water for our sprinkler. That's the side our electricity goes in on. I think you have a propane line that goes down there. We've got a French line that goes down there. We'll do what ultimately you tell us we got to do. But they said it makes it a lot more difficult. So what we're asking tonight is, since we have the empty lot over there, the bushes that were along the side of our house, kind of elephant ears, we've ripped all of that out, the roots and everything. If you would permit us to go as close to our house and the fence as we can, we'll have the fence removed section so they can get in. It probably will be a whole lot safer and a little bit easier for all of us if we were allowed to do that. My wife sent a letter out a couple of days ago. We commit to put the property back the way it is. We'll resod it. If we have to grade it, we will. I just also don't want workmen going past their swimming pool with kids, because that's right there, right up against the tube. The wife may be swimming, the kids and whatnot. So I'm just respectfully asking you folks if you would just allow us to use that empty lot long enough to get the pool built, and we'll go back.
So you want access to your back property through this open land?
Yes, sir. Yes.
How much will they disrupt? Is it just like a bobcat?
Once you get workmen there, you don't know what they're going to do. Now, you also have a swell there that goes down. I'm more than willing to take counsel from any of you. I mean, if it's muddy, I don't want them going through the swell. If we can avoid it to stop water from flowing, but we'll get them as close to our house as we can.
So I think the solution you brought up on email is to just draw up something where they do it. If you're willing to do a deposit for fixing the repair, I don't know how much.
I'd be happy to do that. I'd be happy to rent the land. I mean, whatever. I just don't want to disturb the neighbor and all of the utilities and inconvenience them. So I'll do whatever.
So my understanding is you want to approach the back end of your lot from the east side, from the vacant lot.
From the west side. It's the west side. Yes.
The west side.
Yes.
Or left if you look at the house, right?
Excuse me. Yes, if you're looking at the front of our house,
It'd be the east side of the vacant.
would be on
west
the east side, would be on the left-hand side.
John, from you going out looking at it, what's your thought?
I think the board should grant the access, because the space between these two homes will just get completely wrecked, and it's not open. The lot's open, it's just grass.
Yeah.
If they destroy the grass, it's just regrassing.
Yeah, I have a problem with
There's no trees,
that.
there's
You
no-
said it's on the west side, I think that's on the east side.
No, the lot's on the west side of the home.
West side.
So how much would it be to resod it?
Well, if you
I don't know,
go
I mean, you know,
into the
if it's your-
subdivision from Ancient Oaks, we're the fifth house on the right. We live right next to the open conservatory.
Okay, see, I thought that.
So we're asking to come in on that side, because we're the last house. Then we have the wild land, and then the next house. And his house, we're very close together with a lot of utilities, and that's why
I'm
we're
sure
trying.
landscape is a big 30-foot palm tree that's right in the middle.
Yeah, so I'll just ask it for a side estimate, because maybe that could be the
Yeah, my guess would be.
If I may, what I would recommend is to have district council draft up an agreement that we can use across the board, because this will happen again, I can assure you. And it would go something along the lines of $1,000 deposit. She can build in, if you guys want that, the CDD landscaper would be the company that repairs it, so that we know it's up to the CDD standard, and they're the ones maintaining the area anyways. Okay. So that could be another option that you put in
It's
there.
probably gonna be minimal.
Yeah, it'd be better.
But yeah, we'd have John or somebody document before and after pictures, and they'd agree that restore the land as was. I think we probably have a couple templates already, I'm sure, for similar
We've
stuff.
done this in other districts where it's really just a temporary construction access.
Are you thinking to planting some trees along your fence line though, so that you get a more permanent break from that open space?
I think once we come back, we'll have that discussion. You know, I'm happy to have that discussion along the way, not a problem. You know, one of the issues, and I want to be very sensitive to your time, there was a discussion about there was no irrigation. Well, we planted trees there before we got there with no irrigation, they're doing fine, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't want to complicate that right now.
I would think your irrigation could cover those trees. It wouldn't be, we can't spend the money to put in trees on a big lot.
Well,
He's not asking for that. He's
I'm
just-
not asking for that at this point.
Yeah, it's
So that
not,
could
it's
be,
not relevant for us if
Yeah.
there was a trade.
So what we need to do here, Vanessa, do we need to make a motion?
Yes.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the construction for legal counsel to make, an agreement for construction on the pool.
And you're simultaneously authorizing the access itself.
Correct.
and I will agree to that. I mean, as long as it's reasonable, but it will
Yeah,
be,
any reason.
So,
it will be reasonable.
like $1,000 deposits.
Yeah, that's not
I
bad.
second.
And the motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, thank you.
We have, Pool Works on the telephone, I believe. Pool Works, are you still on the conference line here with us to make a presentation?
We want to, we want to do that before dawn.
We have to-
Yeah, Pool Works was only available at 7, so we're trying to accommodate the best we can here. I'm sorry, you said you are here with us, is that correct?
Check.
Correct, it should be myself and the owner down below.
Okay, hi guys, welcome. Okay. I'm gonna give you guys the floor here if you wanted to, open up a dialogue regarding the proposals that you have.
Well, I was going to be around here if you guys had questions for her.
Okay, I'll let Teresa start then. Teresa, if you wanted to explain what proposals you have sitting in front of the board.
Yes, hi, Tim, and thank you and welcome. So, I just wanted to see if you can explain, more detail about the proposal you submitted to our board, so they have a clear understanding of the scope of service that was presented by you.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time understanding you, but you're wanting me to explain what has to be done?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
And,
just-
and,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
and the damages that were done and that you would have to repair?
You know, I can't hear you, but I'm gonna go through it a little bit. As you know, your equipment is, was setting properly. And, we need to dig it all up and, reset it all. With the tanks that have floated in there, the filter tank floaters, when they weren't set properly in the ground to begin with. When they first were set, they should have been concreted in so that it would not float out of the ground. Consequently, they broke some pipes on the ground when it floated up. And I think it has a lot to do with, I guess, proper installation and using the wrong glue on the pipes that are in there. So we need to, we need to excavate around all that equipment and pull it all out of the ground and reset it properly. So,
But my understanding is, Tim, is this would not be done until next spring.
yeah, right now, we're talking probably next spring, somewhere between March and April, probably April, or, if something comes in sooner, we may get to it sooner.
Is there any other way to expedite Can we jump the line somehow?
Well, I'm trying to work on that, all right? I have to have some meetings with the owner of the company. We did have something that opened up a little bit, but we have to discuss with the owner. I'll discuss this with the owner of the company because we really have to look at the schedule. Because we have a lot of work on the books that have been signed prior to this project. So it's not like I can just take and slide you up in front of other people. But there is a possibility, and we need to discuss that. And there'll be a meeting between the owner of the company and myself that one day next week. We're gonna sit down and go over all the projects that are on the board again. We start carrying out every couple of weeks. So there is a possibility that it might be expedited, but if not, it's gonna be, so it's March, April.
Okay, just let us.
If I could jump in real quick, this is Don Baldwin. Are you all hearing us okay? Everybody's hearing us?
Yeah,
I'm hearing you.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that you're everything we're saying. One of the important things that, we want to attack out there is to make sure we have covered. It's working with the manufacturer of all that equipment. We have some very expensive equipment out there that unfortunately wasn't installed right. And we want to make, a solid plan to get it removed, get the manufacturer to, inspect it, still sign on to your warranty that you have, and then get the equipment placed back in the ground properly. So, we're really important that this gets done right this time. So that's, first and utmost, we have worked with the manufacturer to make sure that they would be able to do that. So when it does settle, you guys can be whole. You're not going to have less than what you have, which intended to have out there is good equipment for many years. The scheduling, unfortunately, as most of you know, in the construction industry, there's labor crisis, there's material shortages, and then things are extremely busy. So we're booked out much further than we ever like to be. It's unfortunate that we can't always accommodate our clients, needs as far as scheduling. What we're doing is as we can. There's a possibility we may have some openings that will open up. But what we really need to have, from you folks, that makes it easier for us is we've got to have, signed, executed contracts. We can't have people just kind of waiting. Without signing contracts, those are jobs that are hard to put into motion, scheduling wise. So, that's what we would, maybe put back on you and ask of you, to hopefully expedite the, negotiating with the contract, signing of the contract. And once Tim knows that we have this deal there, we can plug it in, possibly easy, a little bit quicker. We also had a secondary proposal to help deal with the issues that you've got a pool sitting there that was just recently surfaced. It's going green. Supposed to have that pool sitting empty and you cause damage to the surface. So we have a secondary proposal to, cap all the pipes of the pool and install temporary filtration systems for you. Now, these won't be ones that you can swim with, but they will be ones that you can maintain the pool with and keep the pool full and keep all your, work that you pay to have done with that, resurfacing the pool intact. And those warranties, good. So we kind of tried to make a plan to accommodate and do the best we could with the situation that was out there. I know that doesn't get the pool open. It doesn't make everybody necessarily happy, but just trying to do the best that we could to preserve the work that was already done. And like we said, hopefully at the latest next spring, have all the equipment up and running, pool running, which is what you guys had originally, set forth to do.
There's another project that we have on the books that's supposed to have been done or being done in the fall, October, November, is to install the heating elements in the ground to cover the pool. Now, if we don't have a pool ready to be able to accommodate that, I don't know if that's going to affect that project in any way, John?
No, the heating contractor has already stated that If the pool is not ready, it will not affect his moving forward. They'll install everything and set it, and when the pool is ready, they'll connect the two.
All right, so what you're proposing now is to drain the remnants of the pool now, acid wash the inside of the pool and refill it with temporary filtration so that it will aesthetically look like a clean pool, but it will not be a functional pool. Is that a summary of it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you've got it, you hit the nail on the head there. It's temporary filtration, so your full service keeps the full balance, they can stay clean, that we have to vacuum it, but you know, I want to just reiterate that we will not be able to plan or use the pool, but it's just to preserve, you know, the work that you have done, and protect the reserves. Because the pool sitting empty now, you probably already picked up some things, probably picked up some minor damage to that surface, so it's being, you know, prudent to get that handled while probably get stressed forward.
Hey, Don, can I ask you a question? Your timeline for the acid wash and the refill, what is that timeline?
Tim, I'm gonna let you answer this one. You still on the call?
Yeah, I'm still here. I've been looking at my schedule and I'm gonna have to squeeze it in, sometime between now and the end of September. It's gotta get done, you know, it's not an easy, a quick easy, it's not an in and out. I gotta start draining that pool down and, there's still broken pipes under the ground, so I need to set wall points in there. So it'll be start draining the pool, get it under control, set the wall points and walk away, and then come back and check on it every couple of days until it's empty. Make sure the plugs get pulled out of the drain, out of that pool. And, you know, if I need to set some more well points, we do that. And then, you know, we have to dig and excavate after the water is out of the pool prison area to find all those pipes. So to answer your question, yes, somewhere between, let's say the end of this month and the end of September, we will try to get in there and at least get that pool drained and get it done and get it filled up as soon as possible.
Though you also stated in your proposal that there may be unseen damage already to the surface. Am I correct that we just don't know about yet, possibly?
Yeah, that would be correct.
Okay, so when you get into the pool before you acid wash or even get that far, is that determination going to be made if the surface is compromised and something needs to be done about it at that point?
Don, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, even if there was some damage or it's compromised, that there would be a whole lot that we would try to do at this point, because the remedy would be to resurface it. And that's what we're trying to prevent. The pool was just resurfaced less than a year ago.
Yeah.
So we're trying to preserve what you have, and in 15 or 20 years of service, you should get out of this pool surface. So I don't think we're going to get into resurfacing that pool, but hopefully not. That's why we want to go ahead and get it filled up. If it's just empty and it's dry, it's a part of the pool you can't see that we're worried about. It's the part that's dry. It's the part that's going through the thermal expansion and contraction every day. That's going to cause damage that you may end up having to resurface it. So a little bit of it's the green nasty stuff under the water that we want to get cleaned up. There's some possible staining there. But the biggest concern is the cement that's actually we can see that it's dry.
So just want to make sure the board is clear. There may, long shot, but there may be additional cost. Don't know yet.
Let me ask you a question. If there is damage already to the surface and you have to resurface, that wouldn't affect any of the lane lines or tiles or anything like that, correct? It would just be the marcite?
I'm sorry, I heard the first half of the question. I didn't hear the last half of the question here.
If there is damage to the surface and you have to remarcite, would that also affect all the tile work and all the lane line work as well? Or just the finish?
Well, it affects some of it, yes. You know, it'd be very possible to research that pool, close to what you paid the last time, just because prices of new services have gone up 15 to 20%. So we may be able to save some of that power if we had a resurface. But most likely it would cost in the neighborhood of exactly what it cost the last time around. I don't think we're gonna be there. Again, this is why we're proposing it to save that. I really don't think you folks are gonna find yourself in a situation where you have to resurface the pool. But if you let that come next spring, you will. So that's why we're trying to give you an option where the pool gets filled out and preserve the surface.
That's good. So what's your timeline in the spring? How long would that project take, roughly?
I'm trying to how long will that take to complete? I think Tim kind of talked about it. I'd say probably about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on if we run into issues with groundwater. So a little further explanation on that. With all this rain, you've got a ton of standing water out there. There's water issues to begin with, which is why the packs are floating. So when you drain that pool, it can be very cautious, very careful. But we don't have hydrostatic uplift on that pool shell, and we don't have an issue with the plumbing when we go to tap off the pipe. So I know we keep talking about the uptake of groundwater, some people understand that, some people don't. But this time of year, it's the rain season, it's the worst time of year to drain a large pool like that, or try to dig or excavate on the ground. So the timing there will maybe being a little strategic just because we don't know how long it takes to get under control. I think if Tim and his crew showed up and everything was bone dry and if we could go right to work without anything in the way, it's about a 10 to 2 week project. But, you know, barring anything coming up beyond that, it's incorrect if I'm wrong, please, what happened to do that.
So John, did we fix the
Yeah,
irrigation?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
You can hear me? Good. Don't forget now, the tank that floated out of the ground, and so did the pipes, there was broken pipes underneath there. So, you know, we have to get the water under control in the equipment area as we drain the pool. Because I think some of the pool water is still draining out through broken pipes over there. Okay, 1. And 2, once we identify all those pipes and cut that down, we don't know whether or not when those things floated, that it grabbed any of those pipes and lifted them, say 10 or 15 or even 30 feet back beyond the pool, if they're cracked or not. So we really gonna have to put those under pressure test too, which may take, you know, a full day or 2 for that process to go on. We're gonna have to static test, pipes that we can static test, and we're gonna have to pressure test what's the pressure test to make sure the pool is sound. And once we get that done, we want to cap all those pipes. Other than that, the time frame that you will be talking about is correct.
Okay, so I
It'd be cheaper or faster to just tear it out and start over.
Well, that's sort of that nature. So I have a question for you, that an audience member brought up. If you find broken pipes under the ground that are extending into the pool area because of the lifting of these tanks, can they be sleeved or would they have to be excavated and replaced?
We would have to excavate them and make the necessary repairs wherever they're broken or cracked.
Unlike a stormwater system.
But right now, you don't see a total destruction of the pool and starting over from scratch.
No, not at all.
I mean, the broken pipes are accessible through the ground, they're not under the pool.
Well, I don't know, I didn't design
Excuse
the
me?
pool
I
ability.
didn't hear
The broken pipes are under the ground adjacent to the pool, not under the pool itself.
Well, the pool, some of the pipes do go under the pool, but I don't expect those to be having issues. If I think if there's any issues, it's within the first 20 to 30 feet where the pipe's lifted. But regardless of that, you gotta, the pressure test is static water just to make sure everything. So when they do that, if there are leaks in the pool, they will find them too, under the pool or wherever they may be. But we're not expecting that. We're expecting to see, I'm hoping that we're not gonna see anything. This is just more of a safeguard so that if we do all this work and all of a sudden we put it back together and still got a leak, and you'll be saying, well, why didn't you pressure test this? You know what I mean? So it's the safeguard you and the safeguard us to make sure that all the pipes are good and sound. Because it'd be nothing worse than doing all that work, pull it all out, put everything back in, and then find out that there's a leak. We don't want to go through that. So we have to do our due diligence.
Well, we need to have some more discussion amongst ourselves, and we'll get back to either later tonight or by our district manager if we have any other further questions.
All right, very good.
Thank you guys very much for calling in.
Thanks, Tim. I'll be in touch with you tomorrow.
Thank you for your time, we appreciate it.
You were intimating, Tim, that we might have to go out and look outside of our area to bring in somebody from the outside who had time to do it now, as opposed to wait for these folks until doing it in the spring.
Seems like if there's nobody available locally, and that something obviously has to be done immediately, as he just confirmed, then if that's the only alternative, I think you have to look at that.
By the time they get to it, the pool may rise a little bit more already.
Even if we call Orlando, I'm sure they're gonna have a similar issue.
Well, I think you probably have to go out of state.
Yeah.
Now, the problem if you do that is you gotta find somebody who's on a Florida license, even though they're located out of state. So it's what I call the Yakubowski theory. For every solution, for every problem, there are two solutions. And for every solution, there are two problems. So it's.
Could I just ask for some clarification? So is it my understanding that when we get these problems resolved with the leaks, with the completion, that at some point in time, when it's a completed project, it will be a heated pool?
Yes.
Yes.
And what, in an ideal world, let's say this first plan works, what would be the completion timeline of having a usable completed pool for residents?
March.
Heated pool for residents, March?
It was ready to June, the pool was fixed in April.
And you can't start.
Next,
So he would start in April,
Yes.
and it would take 2 to 3 weeks. So that's May, by the time they do the testing, so you're probably talking about June 1st plus or minus.
so next summer, we might have a heated pool.
But it could be sooner, he said, but he said.
And up till that time, we will have no pool at all.
Good resort.
I understand. Lap pool, we will not have anything in the interim until all of this takes place. And when the end comes, it will be a completed lap pool with heat.
Correct.
Will the resort pool also be heated at that point?
Yes.
Thank you.
What about this brush part?
That's it.
Oh,
Yes.
I just wanted to.
That'll be it.
Thank you. That's it.
I mean, when we entered into the heating pool, we went through all that cost analysis and so forth, and agreed that we could do it this year. We were not under the impression that the pool extent was gonna blow up on us and have that problem, so we thought we had just re-marsided the whole pool, retiled it, got the water slide up and running. I mean, that was first rate, and all of a sudden, the pool goes up. So all the other pieces were in place. That's what's so frustrating about this.
Since I haven't heard a gavel bang yet, is the resort pool going to be turned on for heat
over the winter?
I'm not hearing that.
No.
Yeah.
You don't think it would?
No, I don't think they'll be ready. I forget their timeline. But I'm not sure that that will be ready, because if I'm thinking right, Teresa, we have some work to be done on the backpacks there also, correct? I mean,
Well, I don't think that affects any of the heaters for that pool.
yeah, I can't answer that for sure, John, but my first answer is no, I don't think it'll be ready this year.
That would definitely be a good interim project for the residents to say, even though you haven't had a pool for a while, the fix might be that you have a resort pool with heat to be able to use. And also for real estate people who are trying to show the benefits of living and buying in Seven Oaks versus in all of the new communities that are surrounding us. They're looking for positives and not at all the negatives. And that again would be another positive to entice people to move into our community now instead of building elsewhere.
100% agree. But
Okay, I understand.
there's always been a history of giving timelines, and timelines fall apart, and then you have
Totally agree.
elevation of aggravation.
Totally agree.
So that's the only thing. I agree with you 100%, but you never know, of course, what's going to arise and kill that timeline.
So 2025.
But the heating of the pool,
Very fun.
the benefit accrues in the summertime as well, but it's most important to have it for the fall period and winter period. I mean, that's where we see the most, what people are looking for is having heated pool over the winter, not to have it moderated a little bit during the summer to keep it from getting too hot.
Well, absolutely, but even to be, from a marketing standpoint, to say, at Seven Oaks, here's what we offer, and it's a heated resort pool, and coming in April, we will also have a heated lap pool. You know, so just for people who are looking elsewhere, I would love to have people join our community and not go someplace else because we don't have or we have aged amenities that they say, ooh, if not this, what will happen next?
I think we need to bring back the conversation to the board, and instead of talking about the pool heat, which has already been finalized, we need to go back to fixing the pool, respectfully. It sounds like we can either proceed with these proposals, or we can table this and seek out other proposals, whether it be out of state or out of area, and potentially reauthorize them out for approval, so we don't have to wait another month. We were trying to expedite it, but don't want to execute this current board proposal.
You wanted to ask a question?
So I just wanted to finish answering what you asked me first. You said I intimated going elsewhere to look for somebody else. Hearing sort of the total picture, I think, and given the speed at which the board is able to operate, I don't think you have a choice, but you gotta do the first thing to get it filled, at least temporarily. And then if you gotta take time to do something, you at least are doing it while you're not having everything deteriorate. The other thing I would do, I think, is if I sign the contract with these guys, gotta do the first one, I would have some sort of out in it. So if you could find somebody who could do it much quicker, you could do it and not be locked into waiting till April. I don't know, exactly how you do it. I know it can be done.
Well, each of these projects is sort of, I mean, it's been unbundled in sections, and
Okay.
the prices shouldn't change per section. I mean,
I'm not talking about the pricing.
Yeah.
I'm talking about logistics. You get this first one done, and by September 15th, it's done. You're not worried about now deterioration, all the potential, catastrophic issues. Now you're looking for somebody, and you find somebody. Oh, I can do it next month. I had a cancellation, but it's not this guy. But he's equally qualified. He still knows what to do. Maybe he's certified by the equipment manufacturer or whatever. You do it. Do you want to be in a position that you could do that, as opposed to having signed a contract for these guys to come in April, and you have to pay some big penalty to get out of it? Just give yourself all days, suggesting that the contract has an out. So if you find somebody else who can do it in the interim, you can. But the initial one of getting it filled and getting it protected, I think you don't have a choice.
And one thing on that subject, board members, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this contractor's stipulation of doing the first immediate repair only will work if you sign both.
Right.
They're not looking just for.
I'm
So,
aware that
yeah,
that's why.
I believe that was written into their, am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do want to say something as well. The Pool Works, we called Aqua Works, is the manufacturer of the tanks. And not only they recommended we call the Pool Works, there's a couple other people that recommended we call them as well. Now, if you go out of state, you try to find somebody out of state, I'm just saying, it's gonna have a long time to come here, make an appointment.
But by the time you do it, you may not be getting it done any quicker.
Time,
You're
the
not
time
getting it any
frame could
quicker.
be extended until maybe 2 years.
But you gotta do what you gotta do to get it taken care of now. And if you have to live with that, you have to live with that.
What do you guys think? Do we throw extra money at it and try to get?
Well, I don't know if you want to take this gentleman's advice and legally, if we can, as a district, of signing the contracts, but having it out in a sense, should we find. Signing the contracts will push them forward on the immediate need, signing both contracts. But maybe there's an out that can be in place, should we find somebody that can come and do the rest, if you don't want to take that approach.
So I don't think you have to do that.
Yeah,
It gives you the flexibility, that's all.
Right.
And if you can't do it, you can't do it. And
Well,
at this
what
point
I
in
was,
time,
what I was saying about pricing, I was only looking from the standpoint that the prices, each section of this contract is like 4 or 5 sections to it. They're all costed out by man hours and so forth. It's not like I'm getting a separate down the first part and catching up on the second half. It's still viable work for them, even if they didn't do the final work next spring. So I don't see why they wouldn't exceed to it may push them to jockey their things to get it done early.
for lack of a better term, a creative force majeure position. And with part of the force majeure, you found somebody else.
Right.
But that's up to the attorney to creatively write that.
What I will tell the board is that, based on my conversations with Teresa, who's been talking to the vendor about the start dates, obviously we want this started as soon as possible, but they just explained what their limitations were. So the contract is written so that the work would start, upon the effective date of the agreement, which is when we sign it, but in no event later than October 1st for the Junior Olympic pool portion, and shall be completed by June 30th of 2022. And the resort pool portion would begin again immediately, but not later than May 1st of 2022, and shall be completed by June 30th of 2022. So if they're saying that they can begin no later than October 1st, I don't know what could be done to get out of that contract to get another contractor in for October 1st.
So I don't think it's possible. I don't think we need to. I'd like to partner with this company because they're doing things correctly. They're saying you need to do this with the pool first, so it's even available to do it later. I would say we should build in an incentive, like 15,000 or something, if they do it before they get to February or something. If we get it by then, the community's gonna be pretty happy, and we can just move on. If they don't do it, then we get the 15. But I think we should put a care of it.
Good idea.
I like that idea.
He just said that they have a gap, but they need somebody to confirm it. 15,000 probably helps them confirm.
Okay.
Or wait till
So-
the CFP closes that gap first before we give them the 50.
Now,
He might call back and say, yeah, we can do it, 2 months early.
Maybe we actually should call someone first and see if he said anything about that. And then the next day you can call it 15,000.
So Teresa, if I'm doing the calculations on this right, it's 137K.
There's 5 proposals, right?
Hold on, I got the contract
I
right
saw
here
4.
somewhere.
I'm saying 40,000, 7,000, 71,000, 2,000, and 19,000.
The total,
Is there a total?
The junior Olympic pool,
Wow.
there are 2 contracts. That's about 90
there's
something.
71,000.
Yeah, it's about 92. The junior Olympic pool only, the big one.
I'm talking about every.
If you want to talk about everything, you're at 92 plus 41 plus 50, 92 plus 50 is where you're at.
So.
Yeah, 142 is what I'm typing up here.
Where are we at?
I've got 142, 670, 50. I got five total figures here.
No, you're looking at the wave pool? The wave pool, we're not calculating, that's separate.
I was looking at total, I see 5 proposals from you.
Yeah, but they proposed the wave pool filtration, that's out of the.
So that's the 40,000?
Which one is that?
I don't have the, do you have the contract on hand?
I do, I
Here, I have this.
I have the proposal.
So we have the 19,794.50 that has to be done.
That's good.
So that's to get us,
That's to get us the pool filled, everything cleaned, and the filtration, and the well points. Then you have 71,816
Right.
to reset everything with Junior Olympic pool and get it up, okay? Then the resort pool is 7,995 to
so
fix
just
everything,
just say 8,000.
okay?
Yeah.
And then the extra, what was it, 1,500 or something? 2,400, yeah, for the rock, and that's the total.
Okay, so we take out the 40,665,
Yeah.
that leaves us with 102 and 5 bucks.
I don't think I included that 42,000.
No, you didn't.
So 102,000 plus that.
And on the flip side, do we have any idea what we're going after for the previous tender?
That's a whole other
Well,
discussion.
as I tried to mention earlier, our attorney has suggested that we consider bringing in an outside counsel who has extensive experience in litigating these types of insurance claims, knows what
In construction.
But wait,
Construction.
wouldn't we just submit a claim to our insurance company and they have those people that do that? Because then our insurance would go out there.
If they'll accept the claim, you can do that. Did we ever, we did hear back from the insurance carrier for the prior vendor. And they did want to send an adjuster out. I don't want us to have an adjuster come out until we determine how we're going to handle this on our side, because we do want to make sure that the adjuster doesn't come in with a number that's too short. I know Teresa has a lot of information about what the damages are. So we need somebody who will be more familiar with the construction litigation side to include whatever damages are, so that the vendor's insurance carrier adjuster has all that information. But I don't know if our insurance carrier has been notified. I think they could be a useful tool as well.
Yeah, I would reach out to them, I think that's on them. I mean, if we have a claim, they would then say, well, it's not really our claim, we're going after them, but they have the insurance people that do that.
Yeah, I mean, they may or may not cover it, but I mean, I think we can certainly send that to our carrier as well.
So I would say do that, and then if they balk at that and say that that's not our claim at all, then we get our adjuster, or whoever the professionals they're talking about.
Would you see an objection or a conflict of interest between our insurance carrier if we made them aware of the situation, that they want to remain the first primary on this?
Well, what I see is that we're dealing with two insurance companies who both will send an adjuster and who, no disrespect to the insurance industry, but may not want to pay as much as what we think the damages are. And that's why I suggested a construction litigation attorney who I'm sure deals with insurance as well as the construction side, in case we don't want this to go further. We don't want to get into litigation, certainly, but there's the possibility, it's always a possibility with a construction agreement.
Who's also on the Olympus pool stuff?
There you go.
Who's the litigator working with Olympus pools? We should just ask that. I don't
And
know.
my thinking is calling in that outside source in and of itself will be another expense that you can charge off of this project. It's another liability that caused, your liability caused us to take on this added expense, so that we got a full picture of what needed to be done.
It also will provide you a enhanced negotiating position with the other side. If they know you have a good litigating construction expert on your side, they will be more upfront and honest with you instead of going through the dance for an extra 2 or 3
So how much would
months.
that cost? Because that's our risk too. If we don't get paid for it, we're just putting money out of pocket for this.
That would typically be a percentage of, so,
what I would hope for, that we would get into a consultation and discuss the fees. At the very least, to have somebody who can guide you through the first adjuster steps.
Yeah.
And make sure that nothing gets missed at that step, because sometimes with insurance, as you all know, if you don't submit a response within a certain amount of time, it's the dance is essentially.
So can we get that on the agenda for next time, have that person come consult with us next time, or is that something we're doing in the interim?
It's something that you could authorize your counsel, myself, our firm to talk to some different attorneys. I do have some names that I could give you. I have some information that we've gathered. Some are firms that we've worked with in the past. Some are just firms that we're aware of. Construction litigation, I have that information if you'd like to take a look at it. You could designate a board member to work with us, or you could select somebody, or I could get more information on all 5 of them, if that's what you would prefer. It's completely up to the board.
I think we need to assign somebody, because it might be time sensitive. I don't know how long we have to make a claim, especially if we authorize this other company to start doing work.
I do have a question about that too. So if we have a claim, and don't the adjusters have to come out and look at the situation and take pictures and do all this stuff before anything's done?
Yes.
So how are we gonna?
That's what I'm saying, we need to authorize one of us to do that. I'm happy to do it if you guys want, but.
Yes.
And John.
Well, can't we look at it at the same time, go ahead and authorize the adjusters to come out, we'll be working on the other, and make them aware that we're gonna have counsel looking at this litigation.
Yes, I think the pool company is aware, you can't start to get them to look at it, or until our consultation with it.
So I think we have 3 different things going on here. So I think we need to, first of all, make a motion on,
Okay, so, and Vanessa, you may need help with this here, but we need to authorize you to, are we authorizing you to engage a litigation attorney to be selected by a board member that you're working with? Let's have a meeting here.
I would not engage, the board would engage the attorney, but I would like to have somebody selected for the board to talk to at the next meeting for a formal engagement, if that's what would come of it.
I'm looking at you, Tom.
So Vanessa, so you'll kind of provide that information over time, and you'll kind of do like an interview with all of them? Okay.
Okay.
So if I'm gonna have the authorization to actually select a litigation attorney, so that we don't have to bring it to this, so we don't have to wait, since we're concerned about the time frame.
Well, I think the board would want to,
I would say at least let's bring 2 in.
Yeah, he talks to 2 or 3, but then what's the process for me saying, go ahead and spend how much money on? Yeah, I don't have any idea what that would cost. I can compare the 3 and tell you where we're at.
Can this be a special meeting? We're able to bring them in? And we make a
Yeah, we
decision?
can't authorize to make a decision, so maybe we could do, I guess, a special meeting.
Well, like an emergency meeting?
you can have a special meeting, but it would need to be advertised, because, that's
Can we do
just the
that?
process. You can schedule another meeting, but I think that we probably wanna do some of the legwork,
Right.
talking to the attorneys. I mean, you could find out a lot just by having some initial consults, but it takes some time.
I'm just thinking when they're gonna come back, or to kind of fix the pool, if we move forward with them, we wanna have the attorney lined up.
Yeah, I think this all has to happen within the next month, so.
So how do we make those decisions if we're only meeting once a month?
Where would the money come from? Where would the money come from?
I'm gonna select somebody, I mean, it's better, the more we can authorize to happen outside the meeting, the more we can streamline this.
But you're saying we couldn't do an emergency meeting and just kind of advertise it and set it for 2 weeks, so that could be enough time to maybe speak to these individuals maybe?
That's fine, I mean, how much effort would it
And assuming that they're gonna be available at whatever time we set, we advertise it, so. We'll wait to have a-
Either they would be available Friday.
I know our special meeting really helps us here.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
Okay.
either way, even if we set the advertisement,
I was thinking it was.
Friday, it's in the paper till Sunday, we have to wait another week, so, you know what I mean, now we're 20 days in, what's another 10 days to the next meeting?
So, and I was just gonna say, so why don't we allow Tom to kind of canvass the different attorneys and then invite 2 to 3 of them to come out and do their proposal at the September meeting.
Well, I think that the bureaucracy thing, like that just delays us again to move on to fixing the pool. So I'd rather just get authorization to do it or not. If it's way too expensive, I'll give you an idea of what a consult is.
Probably be hourly anyways, right? So I mean, how much is gonna rack up in hourly charges in the next month?
No, so do you think it's reasonable and it's not gonna be too much? Where would this expense come from?
I mean, wherever we want it to come from, I guess. I can see this being qualified as a reserve item in my opinion.
Right, okay.
At the end of the day, it's all about being nothing money, I suppose.
So I'll promise not to spend too much money.
I mean, you could have a not to exceed amount, but again, it's a matter of getting a consultation, speaking with these attorneys, and then having somebody come back and just understand what's going on, kind of having them ready to go.
And so the idea would be to get them to come in, whichever one I pick or whatever. And then get them to tell us when it's okay for the next company to repair it before they start.
They're advising their counsel that really it's not so much them coming to the meeting and telling everyone. I think having them lined up along the way as we're responding to the insurance company, and that's something that we do.
Right.
I thought the poll work said that they could potentially do that first fix like in September, is that correct? I know they said by October latest, but.
They can, but do we have to wait for the insurance adjuster?
Well, that's what I'm
before they
saying,
do
why
that?
wait if we can move things forward,
That's gonna be.
Right, well, the insurance adjuster can be out here 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, so
So we need our attorney in
We're
place
successful
to
now.
analyze it prior to their adjuster coming out is what Vanessa is doing.
Alright, give Tom the.
So, yeah,
I won't spend too much.
okay, so that's a motion by Sean, right?
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Aye.
Okay, so we've got a process for that.
So, I'm
Is there
sorry,
anything-
does the agreement have to be revised now to add that they can't start until,
The pool work?
the boards can't start until we have an adjuster?
I think you just verbally.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like going too quick.
I mean, I don't think that
We saw it.
we have to remediate our damages. We have to try to do what we can. We can't just sit and wait. We have to engage somebody to make these repairs. The longer we wait, the worse.
I don't think they're ready to come out until the 1st of September anyway. 15th.
Right, but I know they want signed so they can put us on the books. And with that said, do we need to make the adjustments that John highlighted about the engineer?
Well, some of what John highlighted was the timing, and we've already talked about that. The other was,
Performance bond?
there's a requirement for a payment and performance bond in the contract. And the other item is about the payment upon completion. And they had requested a 50% due at signing, 40% due when the equipment is reset in the ground, and 10% due within 7 days of completion. And then other items, I think it was a 50-50. 50% due upon contract signing, 50% due within 7 days of completion. We wrote the contract for a 30% deposit, 20% when the work has been 50% completed, and the remaining 50% the contract upon completion. And prior to payment, the work has to be inspected by the district. A lot of districts have their district engineer perform that function. In this contract, I have written that, but it can also be changed to be just the district or any other district official. Anything would be the appropriate person to look at and say that we think the work has been done satisfactorily and to pay the remaining 50%.
Do we present that to the works? That payment schedule?
No, they
Not yet.
haven't seen that yet, so they may or may not accept that, we don't know.
You don't have any retention in there for lien release or anything in your contract?
I'm sorry, for what?
Retention for lien releases? at the
No,
end?
but that's part of the final completion.
Okay.
50% of
That's
the
not the
contract.
language I've ever seen.
Let's see, the 50% they're asking for seems high before they would shovel in the ground.
And that's why we say 30%, so we're redlining that for 30%, which I agree, it should be 30%.
And my question is, if they don't agree, who do I go back to for someone to make that decision?
Are you adding the carrot for 15 grand? Are you able to do that?
I would like to, we have to.
I mean, that kind of helps soften the blow of the difference of the
It's not like they're not gonna get paid.
Yeah.
And they know we just got burned, so they're probably gonna understand that our request for 30%. If they don't though, to your point, who can authorize that?
You mentioned performance bond, are you advocating doing that on this project as well, on the redo?
I have a payment and performance bond written into the contract.
Now, they already verbally told us we would be responsible for that,
For what?
to pay the performance fund, not them.
What is the cost of that, roughly?
I don't have the
It's
cost.
typically 2 to 3% of the project.
Is it written that we pay it, or is it written that they pay it?
It's written that the cost of the bond is included in the payments to the contractor. So the contract payment terms are based on the proposals that were provided.
So they may come back and that.
And the proposal that was provided didn't include the bond.
It didn't include the cost.
They verbally have said that they will not pay for the bond, that if we want a bond, we can pay for it. So I'm sure they'll come back and just shoot that down.
Alright, so I would suggest, I can handle that too, I'll try to get them to get within 30. Yeah, like try to negotiate back from that 50 to 30.
So since we're at 102,000 now, maybe we authorize not to exceed it to 110 to get a little extra wiggle room there for the bond issuance. And then
Not just that,
authorize-
how do we, within the same thing, add the $15,000 carrot? How do we add that?
Okay.
To be completed by
So let's
February.
make it.
It has to get this job done in
125.
From end of February.
Okay,
So
so,
that'd be 120-ish.
so we'll say 125 just to keep it safe, and I'll look for a motion that Tom is given authority to work with district council on executing a contract not to exceed 125K.
There you are.
District council will be Vanessa. You're signing up for a lot of work this week.
I felt bad for pushing him to
Yes. Would you feel comfortable having Ken sit in on your discussions if he's available?
He's not listening again.
Would you be open to sitting in on some of the discussions that he's having with just as another set of eyes on the project so far?
If you don't think I'd ruin everything, I'd be happy to.
Well, we can't promise that.
No, we're happy to have you there, you know, if there's anything else.
I'd be happy to go, and I'll put on my diplomatic hat.
Okay.
I do have one.
I need a motion for that.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jay,
I'll go ahead and be included.
second by Sean.
You just gotta leave it up, give me a little.
As I say, we don't know what we don't know, so let's get as many people have a better idea.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Can we just clarify one point, so that I know whether I need to make any changes to the contract as drafted? Is who would be the final, person from the district to review the work upon completion for final payment?
I would like our
Engineer?
Engineer to sign off.
And what I would recommend is obviously we do not have the area of expertise, we've kind of been through this discussion with the previous board members before, but we can find an appropriate professional that can probably do that for you, and we can take those services out of your district engineering fees. We just want to find the right professional to do that for you.
It's just a one-shot fee for that.
I'll work on that more for the next room. Okay.
Right, with that business completed, I'd like to give our proposer, Don, read this. No? Okay, Don with Extreme Concrete Cleaning, an opportunity to present.
Yeah.
Which number we entered on?
This is, I believe this is on the agenda, this is something that John asked, for opportunity for this gentleman to propose. There is, it's just clear, I have to ask him on everything.
There's no password?
No.
They can see this.
What's yours?
Okay, my name's Don, I'm with Extreme Concrete Thing. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I've been here for quite a while. I'm a resident of the community, but we started back in 1995. Here's a picture of us pressure washing all the sidewalks and curbs here in 2012. Machine we built to pick up the water and filter it. We've got a proposal for, let me go through this. What's being done is, we started out in 1995, we have a lot of customers year after year after year ask us to come back and repeat business. You pressure wash, 6 months later, the mildew's back, and you do it again, you know? So it's like, it never ends, it's a constant vicious circle. What happens is when you pressure wash, if you just pressure wash, even if you use certain chemicals, it's gonna take off the top layer of the mildew, the mold. And then the roots and all are still there. So if you do, you know, basically same thing, if you pull a weed, it breaks off, the roots are there, it's gonna come right back in no time. That's the reason why. You look at a new sidewalk and it'll stay clean for what? Look at the repairs you've done. Stay clean for a year, 2 years, and everything else will be moldy. And it's because you keep taking that top layer off and it keeps just growing right back. Here is an example of exactly what I'm saying. You know what the surface cleaners are, correct? The round surface cleaners, everyone uses them. You see this a lot if you pay attention. You may not. I do it for a living, so we see it all the time. The surface cleaners right there, that's the size of the one they used. Everywhere they overlapped, it's a little cleaner. This is a mildew coming back after they did it. This isn't your property here. This is one I just saw and I took a picture of. Everywhere they overlap, it's cleaner. Here, it only got hit once because it went overlapped, it cleaned better. So that right there kind of shows you what I'm talking about, how it really cleans it and it never killed it. If it killed this whole area would be the same color. You know, it'd be consistently coming back. It doesn't come and grow in streaks or in circles and stuff like that. So anyway, here's photos of the same thing. This is in here in our community. The same thing's happening because it's been pressure washed, but then the streaks, everything's coming back 6 months later, 4 months later. This is actually my neighborhood here over by my park. And here's up here, the same thing, mildew. And then this here is one of my reasons for taking this photo is a lot of, I'm sorry, I might not be able to see, a lot of the rocks and stuff in the concrete's deteriorating. You come through, concrete poured, it's around 3,000 PSI. You pressure wash with the same PSI, you're blasting away layers no matter what, you know, when you're using the same amount of pressure as the tensile strength of the concrete. So anyway, well, our proposal eliminates a lot of problems like this. Here you got mildew on the basketball courts, which you can't pressure wash because if you do, you're gonna be taking layers off and make the basketball courts, the finish deteriorate quicker. If you let mildew sit there, it's gonna do the same thing. This is just something I wanted to show. With our system, we also remove rust, and here's a neighborhood we did to clean the whole thing, but we just did that for example at the beginning. Here's a sidewalk in a community we've done for 8 years, never been pressure washed. It looks like that today. We go through twice a year and clean, but when we get done, it'll be like this every single day of the week. It's not clean, 6 months later it's black, we let it go for a while, then we do it again, and eventually it's clean again. It stays clean all the time.
Is it the process you're cleaning or is it the chemicals you're using?
We use chemicals that actually kill the mildew. It's like so many people pressure wash and they'll put down chlorine. Chlorine doesn't kill mold. It'll help get rid of the stain, but it doesn't kill it. If you go on EPA's website, they'll say the same thing. On a smooth finish, different chemicals will work. On something like concrete that's porous, it doesn't. It doesn't get to the roots and kill
So what do you use as a chemical or?
We use for 2 or 3 years, we've worked with 2 different chemists, and finally we've got proprietary chemicals that work, and they break down within 24 hours, it turns into water. And it's one of the friendliest chemicals around. This is what it'll do. It'll kill mold. We use 90% less water than pressure washing. We've started out pressure washing in 1995. We still do. We do parking garages. We've done, if you go to Tampa International, every single parking garage there, we've done it sometime or another. So there's some times where pressure washing is something you have to do. For cleaning sidewalks for mold, you're just going to constantly keep going back. Curbs, the same thing. We don't use high pressure that's going to etch or erode it. And like I said, the chemical breaks down in 24 hours. It keeps the property clean. And then with what we do is we guarantee if it's, even with the rain as bad as it is, I can show you photos of ones we've done, even with this rain, it still is not back. No mildews come back. If it does come back, and you call us, we come every 6 months, you call us, we come back, we clean it for free. You know, it's like you got to contact us and we'll take care of it. Here I've done samples. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed. Just before the roundabout, just past Sam's, on the right-hand side, you'll notice it now. There's 3 sections that are about 6-7 feet long that are clean. We cleaned those back in 2020. John knows we did. He saw, we talked back then and knew he did. And here's one's here, one's here, one's here. All of them are cleaned in 2020. And this is hard to see. In June of 2020, we came back and hit that again. That one was not hit, and this one was hit and left alone in January 20th. So you can actually go by and see them and see the sample. This ECC, I'm sure you may have noticed, maybe not. That's been on the concrete since 2020. We hit it again in June of 2020. We're not talking 21. We're talking over a year ago. If you go out there today, you'll see that. Right before when you take the roundabout, and what's the first road? I think I know since
Summergate.
What is it? Yeah, Summergate. Right there on the right, you'll see that. And that's been there since 2020 in June. And so my point is, it's like what we do.
You hit that area and made it clean, just the writing.
We just sprayed it, left it, and haven't done a thing. And since June 2020, a year later, over a year and 2 months later. But we go through this here is Eagleston. It's hard to see in this video. I was just going to try to prove a point. We had chemicals, and we had done a job. We had some solution left over. So we went through on Eagleston. If you look at it, it's been clean since I have photos of June 25th. We went up 2020. We went through there and sprayed the entrance side coming in from Bruceby Downs on Eagleston. On both sides, the curbs are clean. On the exit side going from Ancient Oaks Boulevard out to Bruceby Downs, there's areas that aren't clean because we ran out of solution. But if you look, they're totally, totally clean. And they've been that way since June 20th, and they haven't been touched or anything. So to me, it just drives me crazy knowing that these can be clean all the time and not have to. One thing in the video you couldn't see, but it's like it's starting to get iron. It's like, I don't know what's going on, but with well water and reclaimed water, a lot of places are having issues where there's a lot of iron showing up. That's why I showed you the photo of the iron. We can get that out. We can do it every time. I can't promise how long it'll stay away because it depends on how much your wells run, how much you're watering, to keep it away. We gave a proposal to do this, and I think the budget this year was $65,000. Our estimate is $51,000 to do all the areas that were done by the maintenance guys. I know the maintenance guys aren't doing it now, but to do all those areas, to do all the sidewalks and curbs, to do the pool decks in here, to do every single tennis court. So we're doing more than what was even on the original proposal for $51,000. So actually, since your budget's $65,000, I just gave you $14,000 for your pool money incentive right there. So I mean, we do work everywhere. We've done work at Tampa International, and the list is long. Doing it since 1995. We don't do residential anymore. We did years ago, but we do commercial, and the quality of the work's there. So I just wanted to get this out there. I know back when I talked to John in January of 2020, we were trying to work out something, and I just wanted to get in front of you all and get the presentation and get the proposal, because I don't know you know, where it stands or what, but it's like, I hope we won't spend money again, pressure washing, and then 6 months later have it black again.
So how often do you do it? How often?
We come through twice a year. I probably skipped that part. I mean, it was on there. But we come through twice a year. We could go probably a year and a half without doing it, but we do it because it's quicker and easier for us. And if some reason something gets missed, a little area doesn't get covered, we do it again 6 months later, so we're good. If you have sprinklers like right now, even though it's raining at times, so many communities still have their sprinklers running. You know, so it's like if you got constantly water running over the edge, you're gonna get mildew. I don't care what you do, it's gonna grow on puddles of water sitting there on stagnant ponds. So we come through twice a year, so you're getting twice the, you know, the signage, you know, cobwebs, whatever, all that's gonna be knocked down. And you're getting twice the,
So when you do it the first time through, are you exhibiting pressure or are you just simply spraying?
normally, we use under 1,000 PSI if we do use pressure. Most of the time, it depends on what we use. We'll take, if we bump it up, we can get it stronger where we can get it to clean quicker. But a lot of times, if it kills the mildew, there's no question about that. Sometimes to get rid of the stain, it takes longer. If you take bleach, it'll get rid of the stain fairly quick, but it won't kill it. But we like I said, we started out residential. We went to parking garages and other things because we didn't want to deal with chlorine and bleach. So if it's in the curbs and has issues, we'll come through with we have big pumps that put out a lot of water and blast it with that with like 300, 700 PSI and knock the.
So there's some agitation, is there any physical agitation, brushes or anything?
No.
That you use?
No. And like that sidewalk, the very first sidewalk, 8 years, we've done the same thing forever. And I got a ton of pictures I have on here that I can show you just one after another. That's
You're
what we've
making
done.
all the sidewalks and curbings in Seven Oaks, plus the tennis courts.
Yep.
And basketball.
And that's, yeah.
We don't do the tennis court.
No, it's basketball.
Did I say tennis courts?
Yeah, you said.
Did I? Sorry. Basketball courts like this, because for one, it's a slip hazard, but you definitely don't want to pressure wash them because that's going to mess them up.
So we invited Don because he wanted to present his method of cleaning. The budget is rolling in October, meaning we are either going to renew our current pressure washing contract or possibly look at different options. Just quick questions for you. The chemical that you use, is it any way at all affecting the pool water when you're out here?
No.
Doing this deck?
No, and that's the thing too, is everyone says every chemical is biodegradable or eco-friendly. The chemicals we use are called what's called direct release. Because if you read a lot of containers, you can't. Chemicals you use inside, you're not supposed to use outside. A lot of them will say indoor use only. Because like people will use bleach. Bleach is supposed to be biodegradable, but it will kill frogs, lizards, everything out there until it breaks down and it goes away. What we use won't. When we did that back, I mean, you can see, you can go back there, Eagleson, when we did that, the landscaper called John because he was like furious. He's like, these guys are spraying the curves and they're going to kill everything. It never killed anything. It never did anything. I mean, John can vouch for that. What we spray is not aggressive to where it's actually in quite a few household chemicals and all some of the solutions are.
Okay, so your chemical will not affect the pool water?
No, it won't affect the pool. It won't affect the pool.
You had mentioned to me when we were talking about how everything stays clean.
Yeah.
For instance, the curbing.
Yeah.
But the curbing will get dirty in a sense of tire marks.
Right.
The curbing, just so I don't want a misconception, the curbing after Don cleans, it's not gonna stay white forever, but the mold mildew situation, am I correct?
Right.
Is under control and will stay there. But if you have tire marks or rust or things of that nature, you may see that on the curbing, for instance.
If the stuff breaks down so quickly, how does it have a residual effect to stopping mildew from coming back again?
Mildew, it's taken a while for me to learn a lot of stuff from a lot of other people. Mildew, you can kill it within 9 minutes. Have you ever heard of masonite clay? It's in the product is clay, literally, and it's in a lot of women's makeup or when you do the facial face mask or whatever, you know, when they're whatever for beautifying and all that. You know, what is it?
The mud.
Yeah, that has a lot of it has bentonite clay. It kills bacteria and other things, and you can actually put that on the sidewalk, and that'll work because we've done that. I mean, we've done So many things that we've had 2 chemical engineers that work for chemical companies working with things, and that will actually work, but it's not gonna work for us because we can't go out here and put out a ton of clay and hoping it slips and falls and, you know. But it literally, if you put it on mildew, it will sit there and it will suffocate mildew and kill it. So basically the chemical's gotta be on there for 9 minutes. So, you know, a lot of things too that we do also is we have smaller equipment. When we're applying it, we're going down the road, vehicles can get by us. If they can't get by us, we're applying it at 10, 15 miles an hour. So we're not gonna have a huge truck out there pressure washing the sidewalk that's gonna be blocking traffic and having every tenant, because that's what happened with us when we did that.
John,
2012.
What do we spend now in pressure washing? We're not doing it all in-house, we have another company, right?
Right, we have a company that does it all. I'm just trying to remember the number.
Trying to look at the
Ballpark, real ball.
Yeah.
I was just saying.
40, 45-ish, sorry.
For years.
What are we spending now?
And that's a one-time a year?
Pressure washing?
Yes, he starts at the front, goes in the back, but shows up if we need him.
So if we're doing this at 51, and it's twice a year.
Yeah, so here's just for respect for time. Don has this methodology which he wanted to present, and what we'll do together, me and Don, we'll get all the contracts and everything in order. So I'll present it to the board so you can make a decision should we choose to change to Don. You'll know the stipulations, but one of Don's stipulations, am I correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Go ahead. Yeah.
That he requires a 3-year commitment, which we don't have with anybody else we currently deal with. Now, we can discuss that later, but it's just something I want to make sure that you're aware of. He does require or request, I guess require, a 3-year commitment, but there's a reason.
Right, and there's different ways we can do it. What's happened to us is we've gone through, just like this community, and cleaned everything. Then they come in and get some guy's cheap pressure washing and say, here, will you maintain it and take it off from under us when we spent the initial money to get it clean and all the work to get it clean. So what we proposed is the price we give was for 3 years, each year increased by 1,000, which isn't even 3%. But we increased it, and then if you canceled within 3 years, it was a $10,000 fee. So for canceling, because we are going to put a lot of time and effort, because it's going to take a lot of work the first time. Once we get it clean, yeah, it's easy to maintain. We can fly through it, we do well. But it's like, or the other thing we can do is we can up the price. You stay with us 3 years, discount each year, you stay longer with us and a discount that way. So it comes out the same either way. We just literally have had other associations have us come in and clean it and then put it out for bid. And someone comes in and says, this place is clean, I can do this in a heartbeat. And they fly through it and they get there one time, you know, $20,000, whatever, and there's nothing there to clean. And we've literally had that done. So it's like, we were like, we've got to do something to protect ourselves. So that's all we're looking for.
Yeah,
So it can be worked out different ways.
But I think the best thing to do is in the next coming weeks, we'll just hammer everything out. I'll bring it back to the board. So we'll get both contractors again.
So it's something that's already under our budget. It's
Yes.
just a matter where we change the number, change the method.
That is correct.
So with you being here, it sounds like you don't even need to come every 6 months. What about saving money so you come like 2 less times every 3?
It's not going to look as good, and then you're going to have areas that once it starts getting away, then we got to work on cleaning it again. But once we get it clean, it stays clean all the time. There's times where you might have a sprinkler valve stick on, and the guy, by the time he fixes it, it's run over and run over and run over. You know, all those sprinklers run over, and it's going to get black and dirty. I mean, there's just nothing. But if it's normal sprinkler use and, you know, normal, nothing like that, it's going to stay clean. But so, yeah, we could say, but it's like, we just won't do that because it's not going to look good for one, and then it's going to come back on us to have to go clean it. That's why we give a guarantee that if that does happen and that happens, you know, we're doing all the other work for it, we're not going to say, no, we're not going to take care of it. You call us, we're going to run out here and clean whatever area that had the valve stick on and had issues. You know?
Any other
So-
questions?
The other question is if you get most of the stuff, but then you uncover stains, are you needing something different for the actual stains?
For the rust, we end up having to use another solution that's pretty expensive because it's considered direct release too. It's allowed to be EPA approved where it can be used in the environment and go into the storm drains and all. But so that's something separate. We're trying to see, they're working to see, because they can't mix a lot of the chemicals, they're trying to see if they can come up with something that we can incorporate to where it automatically does it. Because if you do go back to Eagleson, it was clean before, but even John and I noticed it's like it's getting yellow, rust, orange, whatever, going down the curbs. And it's like, what'd you say? Y'all are starting to use, you've used reclaimed water some, or was it the
Well,
wells?
it's always reclaimed, but we do have
Is
wells.
this on the south side of Eagleson, not on the north side?
No, the north side, when you enter off of Bruceby Downs.
Yeah.
Onto Eagleson.
Where the hospital is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they were spraying all kinds of crap on the curbings then, and dirt and fill. Did that contribute to it? All the dirt and silt that they were.
They could, sure. That would just be dirt though, obviously, it wouldn't be a mold mildew issue. But anyhow.
But like he said, the curbs are gonna have tire marks. That's gonna happen. We clean them, they're gonna be there. I mean, we can pressure wash, we can still come through and hit stuff if you want, but overall, it's like, or it's not gonna take up gum, and then your dirt and your sand's gonna sit there, but that's, if it's blown off or whatever, but yeah, other than that, it's gonna be clean.
So I wasn't here for the last time we resurfaced or treated our roads. Did that stain areas that you would do or anything? Probably not, though, because you just on sidewalks.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah, it wouldn't do anything to the roads.
What about the nature trail? Where the wooden bridges are those treated as well, or are those?
Yeah, they are under current contract to be washed, so that would have to be part of Don's contract.
Yeah, which
also
it-
should be.
I was just
Is it in there?
Everything should be in there, every single thing, all the trellises, everything, what we sat down and talked about first, you had still had a maintenance guy, I think, doing all of it, and then,
Yes, everything, all the
Yeah.
pergolas,
Yeah, we're
the
doing-
wood bridges, everything that's currently being washed by our current contractor. Should we change, it would still be covered. Don just has a different method to his madness that maybe visually, right? It may last a lot longer visually.
and it uses less water, and it's just more cost effective, because we can do it quicker than sitting there blasting away, a concrete, try to take it out.
John, are you looking for an approval from the board tonight, or are we just
No,
presenting?
just presentation.
Yeah, so we can send this
So we can
out.
discuss, yeah, so I don't want to hold it up anymore, but yeah.
Okay, so I can get a proposal and send it to all you guys, but,
Yeah, I'll hammer it out with Don before I'll get it to you,
okay.
but.
It is allocated in the budget, so it's not gonna affect our conversations on budget tonight.
Thanks, John.
Sure, no problem, thanks for listening, thanks for your time. You got a lot going on, so appreciate you allowing me to take your time.
All right, so, time check, 8:15, tab 1. Field operations update. John, is there other items that you want to go over?
It's gonna be quick. So we all know, or should know, that the RFP for the landscape contract is available tomorrow. It goes live tomorrow, so we'll start having contractors coming in and picking that up and making hopefully their presentation to our landscape contract. Well, there's Taylor and I will actually physically be together to open them. There's a meeting that happens before that. There's a pre-bid meeting that happens. It's all on our schedule that Taylor has. So he can easily forward to you if you want to see.
Yeah, so long story short, they'll all show up here, we'll walk the property, John will walk the property with them, show them, answer questions, whatever. They'll all submit any bids, I think it's September 3rd, it's not right, I'll have to double check, but they're all submitted, we'll look everything up publicly. And then we'll have everything brought to you, John will review it all, and we'll bring it to the board. I believe it's in the October meeting for you to select a vendor and start November. So we couldn't reasonably have the time frame if you guys actually want good bids to begin a contract in October, but we're 1 month after that, so we're pretty confident that that'll all be moving along.
Cul-de-sacs in Pinecrest, Forest Edge, landscapes next. Contractor's already been here, just waiting on their proposals to come in to finish that project, but it's just landscaping at this point, so it's simple. And one thing I didn't have in here, I forgot to put in here, is that the mulching of the community, the main collector roads, all the beds, the parks, and the street trees is happening inside. So the entire property will be mulched in September. So that's coming. Skip the fountain resurfacing, I forgot to take that out. I talked about that last meeting, but forgot to delete it. The only other thing I have is this easement access situation. If you see on my notes, we just have another fence that is blocking one of our easements between two homes. to access a different pond. So here it is, and we need to do something to figure out how to get back to these ponds, because there's only one access point, and this is it. And it's got a fence running from house to house.
I'd probably recommend we do the same thing we did with the other one, 5 foot either side. She's already got a template agreement, plug in the addresses and boom.
You're okay with the 5 feet on either side in the same spot?
Well, as long as we end up with 10 feet.
Yeah.
You know, this should be a 20-foot easement, as typically they all are. So as long as we end up with 10 feet, we're good.
Okay, so we send them a letter?
Correct, yeah. I mean, I'll probably just wait and let her do an agreement first. We'll send the letter, send the agreement all together, and say, here's what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? And that's kind of been set as the standard, I think, on the last one, so that'll probably be our normal procedure moving forward, I would say.
Do you want the motion to authorize the encroachment agreement now, or do you want to bring a signed agreement back to the board?
I'll motion that
I'd say we just do it now.
I second.
Again, I think this is kind of the
We need
same.
Jack back.
Sorry?
We just need Jack back.
We just need 3, right?
Yeah, we should 3. So it's a motion by Tom, second by Sean.
You notice how he's on the soapbox and he left.
He was not the last meeting either. The 3 services meeting.
Any opposed?
So Jack, we just went through a conversation that was similar to the last meeting where there's a fence on an easement. So I don't know if on your HOA side, you need to have that same discussion of if that was approved or something.
I can't say I know, I got my proverbial tit in the ringer on that, because the HOA was not going to pay for that.
Oh, okay. Well, so who is, or would I say the homeowner, or, you know, he's got it in here, so. Who is it?
I
don't know the whole thing, but you said
it's 2,400. So Jack, we basically just decided to we're going to hold the same standard that we did on the last easement that was blocked off. And each homeowner can move out 5 feet on either side, give us a 10-foot easement. And Vanessa will set up an easement encroachment agreement with those, or occupational agreement with those 2 homeowners.
Is this another incident?
Yep. It's another one, it's the same exact thing, but another area.
But you might need to talk through that in another meeting, so.
I was on HOA, I want to hear about it.
Whoever approved it or didn't approve it or whatever, but that's not our job, so we can.
Right. Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, clubhouse manager, Mr. Teresa.
Anybody have any questions for me on any of the reports?
The top line recreation, or, you know.
That's with the budget, right?
What is it,
The
sorry?
playground.
Sort of. I mean, we're gonna get to the budget here as well, but as far as, I mean, we have a budgeted amount for capital expenditure, and we're allocating reserve for projects, and we have a list of projects that we wanna do. I sent you an email with the top stuff. So it's not line item budget for, per se, as far as this much for playgrounds, but we have a total amount, which is $510,000, $300 that was spent on the pool heaters, and then the priorities that were listed in the email I sent you after talking to the district staff was 42 and change for the splash park, the weight collectors, which has to be done, 19,000 for cafe cabinets and countertops, and 162 for the playground. Then there's a bunch of optional stuff that has been, I think, pushed back, the dog park, splash park features, which we're not planning on doing this year, but the next fiscal year, the trellis out front. So there's other wish list items, but let me just do this again here.
So let me ask you this question, Taylor. I know we're gonna get to the budget, but, you know, I think with some of the new, things that are popping up, I think we really need to reconsider some of these bigger projects.
Right.
And maybe put things on hold, until we get our current problems resolved.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
So the four items that were listed as priority here, which again was the pool heaters, the splash park stuff, weight collectors, cafe cabinets and playground, totals 525. We've got 510 budgeted to spend on projects. So again, like you said, and John made a point earlier as well, as far as setting the dollar amount. Here's a dollar amount, here's the priorities, you know, use it wisely and get as much of the stuff done as we can over the next year. So that's why I couldn't say yes or no which answer if it's in the budget. It's on the list, and we have a fund of project money, but how we spend it is kind of lucrative for us.
So we're not at the budget talk yet, right?
Not yet, but we could certainly
Well,
cross over
I
that.
was gonna ask
Start
about-
talking about the playground proposals, so.
You want to talk about that now? Or?
We can wait for budget,
Okay.
because there's
so
no
the
sense
worst-
in talking about it if we're not gonna
Okay.
So real quick, I
fund
can
it.
other things, the movie, why is that not?
We're still waiting on the contractor to schedule a date for us.
Did we pay
We
them?
never paid him, he's still retaining his
Anything?
$8,000.
So.
I left him a voicemail, so hasn't returned.
When's that?
Probably about a week and a half ago.
So I don't know if we could excavate that, but, and it's kind of like a couple projects.
I mean, it's really fine the way it is, but the board wanted us to change the carpet, so that means he's gotta take off all the seats. I know the last time I heard from him, he said he was ordering the carpet. So whether the carpet came in, which it should have, so now we're just waiting to get it scheduled.
So question for you. So do you think because of the labor intense that he has to do, he's just kind of avoiding us and being like, hey, I'll just kind of keep the 8,000?
Yep.
I don't know, because he said he was gonna do it, but he just hasn't returned the call yet.
Yeah, me personally, just kind of listening to what you just said, you called and left a message, haven't heard back. I think he's kind of saying, hey, I'm done, I'll keep the 8,000.
How much do we hold back?
I'll try again, I think it's about 8 grand, 8,000. I don't have the exact, but that's kind of what I remember.
I'll call him also, we'll double team and see if he responds.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, and if he's just gonna leave it as is,
Right.
then, you know, for future, we'll definitely not utilize this service.
Well, and then on the Symbiont, what, is it
I'm
our,
waiting for the permit.
is it our
Everything's-
process or their call? Their trust?
No, it's not that.
And then anything?
And I just wanted to bring up Christmas decorations. I did have another company come out and, I didn't get the actual light item bid, but he verbally told me what we're looking at. So his bid came in higher than the 27,000. This one came in at 32. So I know the board gave me 27,000 to spend on Christmas decorations, but I don't have the heart to do that. So I can't see spending 27,000 on Christmas decorations. So
How many man hours would that be?
Hold on.
I'll agree to 23,000, you know.
But-
Even though you gave me the money, I just can't see it. I cut down.
But I think at that last meeting, Teresa, I think we were saying up to, but we want to stick in that lower.
Yeah, like I said, you gave me the money for it, but I can't see spending that much money on
Yeah,
decorations.
give him to come to that 22, 23, and we're good.
I would rather cut down a little bit.
Okay.
So as long as everybody's okay with that.
Well, we get you know, to stay under that number.
So
So
try to not, try to talk to
I just can't see it.
anything else that you see as an issue?
No, still waiting on the sponge park boots, so
That should be.
custom made.
That should be. Okay.
Should be within the next 2-3 weeks,
Okay,
but
and,
On Corona time.
and,
on their time,
installation of the lockers, we're still,
still waiting on those, probably about two more weeks.
So you gonna talk about the playground now or no?
I'm gonna let district council do their update and district engineer, we'll get through the staff updates, and then we'll jump right into the budget. That works for you guys. So, Vanessa.
I think we've discussed everything that I have to the board. If there's anything else, I'm happy to answer your questions, but I really don't have anything else.
I just asked, did you and Josh, did you guys all get together on the S19 and everything?
Well, I'm not.
Are you not?
I dealt with S19 with, Rebecca, so him and I have been in contact. I've had conversations with Josh, Mark, and also, our council.
So you're comfortable with where you're at, you need any more support?
I think we're pretty comfortable, based on just the meetings that I've had. I know we're probably off topic here, but, the meetings I've had with Three of the commissioners so far have been very positive.
That's good. I didn't know if that was part of her job, that's what I brought it down, but don't forget when it's time to actually get communities help, John, we have.
Well, I think, John, you're very well on top of it with the dates and all the information, so thank you for that. So I think we're October 12th for the information to go to BOCC.
Yes, and 9/9 for PC.
Yeah, PC, just what I heard is, they are recommending to deny based on their findings. But again, the OCC could say, well, let's do it. So we have to make sure we have a very strong presence. Our legal counsel on that side has met with, I think, 3 or 4 of the commissioners. I've met with 3 of them already, and needing to meet with 2 others.
So you didn't have anything else, what was next? Right?
District engineer?
I have a couple of items. One is in regard to the speed tables. There was a request for an extra couple of speed tables, so we were looking for some direction in terms of location. Our traffic engineer did take a look at it with John and I at a conference call. So it looks like we're flexible in terms of location, so I don't know if there's a particular liaison in the board that would like to make some decisions about the location. And then obviously we can work on some design and.
I'll take that off your hands. I would love to help with that.
So if I can, so I'll give it to you, but I just want to make
I know, by the clock tower.
the recommendation, as you're coming around the clock tower, right there at Amberside and Springwood.
I agree with that spot too.
They were okay with that.
Okay.
And then I think the other one was off of Mystic Oaks near the school.
Yes.
No, the
Okay.
other spot was on that S curve, which like, it's between Knoll Point and Pepper, but there's nothing there. And I think people forget that's 30 miles an hour.
Okay, all right, well, if those are the locations you want, then.
Because on the north end.
John, wasn't there a mistake?
So that's a bad.
No,
Request, no, okay.
no, I mean, it was initially, but people are like, well, that doesn't make any sense, that's where the school is. But I think there was that concern though with, the one on the S turn, there's no, divider. So you end up having to go across the whole road, and I think that's where, you were gonna come back and tell us if we were even allowed to do that.
Well, they would just separate them, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Okay,
and we'll have them, the traffic designers come up with the best locations in terms of any split or how that should be done. So now that we have the 100%, we were a little unsure not to think about Josh, but Josh kind of was like the master of the speed table. So we were like, okay, we just want to make sure that now that Josh isn't on the board, that we get from feedback from the community in terms of making sure we know where to go. So.
I mean, as long as we're not creating like a raceway where they're able to go around one.
Well, the good news is, it sounds like to me, talking to John, that what you have in place now is really helped.
It does, absolutely.
So, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's not, and we don't have a bunch of people here complaining about it.
Yeah.
So you've accomplished quite the task.
Yeah, if you can just do that, I'll be good.
Good, good.
So then Lauren's gonna work with you on getting spots and then there'll be a proposal.
I think I know, I understand completely and got confirmation sitting here looking at the board, the community. I know where they are. I will follow up with John, provide him some details, and then we can follow up with the appropriate people in the community.
People think this is a drag strip. Once you get around the clock tower, it's a drag strip, and up at the curves, it's Watkins Glen, it's back and forth like this. But they're all steep.
I'm just glad what you did, because I was worried that you were gonna get a backlash, and next thing you know, you're gonna take them out. So that's good. At least the community seems to care, so that makes a big difference. I do have an update on the pavement preservation. We did have a trigger point today, so now that we have had a trigger point for work in Meta Point 4, it will open up a whole bunch of work that we'll be doing between Meta Point 4, Meta Point 3, 7 Oaks. So we're still shooting for starting the middle of October. We recognize the fact that holidays are around the corner. We also need to pay very much attention to the weather. Weather is going to be key. So it could go anywhere from October to February, because when we started last time, January was cold. So between cold temperatures and humid temperatures,
we play a dodgy game, and we probably have about 3 months worth of work. So just be open-minded. I know you were looking at resurfacing or building resurfacing under 7 of H&M Boulevard.
Yeah, I don't know what timing, the RFPs haven't even been built, and then, everything's gonna shut down at the end of the year, so.
We'll just have to work on that
Yeah,
together.
we'll have to work on that, I just don't see that happening before the year end.
Okay, all right. So it'd actually be better, the weather cooperates and we get it done. So. And that's really all I have. I haven't been here in a while, so I wanted to check in. Haven't actually met Vanessa face to face, and I see Vanessa. So that's all I have. And I y'all have to hear that so you can talk about your budget.
Right. District manager update, next meeting is the public hearing for the Seven Oaks community, no, it's not a public hearing, I don't want to say that, but it is the October 13th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Back at Seven Oaks Clubhouse. Presentation of the financial statement. You obviously have the agendas, current budget, current year-to-date numbers. You are under budget $520,000. Again, that's always been a big number, but I think there's still some big projects left to take some of that additional funding that we have waiting. That said, unless you have anything else for me, we can move into the S12, S19 discussion.
I'm sorry, I just have a quick question. With the unused funds, what happens with those? Where do they go? If they're not used?
It'll roll into next year's funding. So it can either be moved to reserves or it'll stay in our operating account.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't get all the leftovers, unfortunately.
yeah, once we work out the detail, I think that's where we're talking about maybe planning a replacement, and setting a fund up for the playground and stuff, right?
Yeah, at the end of the year, we can see what's left, absolutely, and then we can decide what we want to do with that money and what project we want to invest in or throw in with the project work for next fiscal year. So.
John, I'm sorry, did I see that right, that you had money set aside for those village parks, those playgrounds?
The reserve,
The reserve.
the reserve, and Tanya had verified this, the reserve has $650,000 allocated.
I did. Almost got away.
I got you. She did verify that there are $650,000 that is in the reserves that is specifically for parks.
Okay.
So we haven't touched that money yet, and it's stretched out all the way to fiscal 22-23. Of course, I can move if we need to, but there's 650 sitting in there for parks.
And how many village parks are there?
23. On average, the village park replacements to replace that structure is about 75 to 80,000. So if you wanted to do them all at once, let's say you have about 7, you could do, give or take 7 or 8, and that would wipe out your reserve. The only thing I don't know, and Taylor, you may or may not be able to answer this now, is if that 650 includes this playground, the big one.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't know if that was gonna come out of capital outlay, the possibility of doing this, that 510 you mentioned.
Yeah, the 510, I mean, that's, yeah, we were planning on using that money for.
Okay, so that would leave the 650 for the field.
So how would you prioritize?
Theoretically, yeah.
Yes.
How would you prioritize just how they're put in? Because are they aging?
By far, the northern properties are in better shape than the southern properties. So John's done a lot of work already on figuring out many of them, but just from age, you would pretty much start from the south and work your way north.
That makes sense to do.
Depending if we have an anomaly part of the north, obviously we would address that. But there is 650 that's in the reserve fund for that. So we could focus, on up to 7 parks, give or take, about 7 to 8 parks.
So the vendor doesn't give us a break based on doing multiple.
We haven't gone that far. I took Springwood and I had them bid it out and build it out, and it was about 75. So I'm using that just as a rough.
In line with Josh update here, I'll throw out the fact that he wants to keep that money for purchasing that lot.
For that.
Yeah.
Wait, but that's the money for buying?
Well, the reserve fund in general is where that money would come from.
to purchase this.
Okay, so that gets us
That's
back,
Right.
that gets us back to that conversation.
Right.
On that stuff.
The reserve fund doesn't allocate for purchasing new property, you know what I mean? But that was, yeah, that's money that would be earmarked for that offer, fulfilling that offer, so.
Is there an offer out? I'm sorry, you were gonna go rolling right into that conversation.
Do you recall if there's an open offer still? I believe there is.
We, from what I understand, we have an open offer, and we're just waiting for, I guess from what I understand, for Crown to go to, I guess, the BOCC and basically say why they haven't allowed us to purchase the property.
It's
From what I
a
understand.
standstill, I guess.
Yeah.
With them, so.
So getting back into that conversation, is there anything else we can do to encourage them to act on it?
Ask Andy to call, because that's the only one I want to talk to.
Yeah.
That's good, I mean,
Yeah, I don't know, there's a whole lot more.
With that building, does it come with the property or are they retaining the property?
Well, the property's what we'd be buying, the building is what they're willing to threaten to knock it down or something, or they.
Yeah, or they want us to sell it for, I think, $2 million,
Something like that.
some crazy amount of money.
But the wood's there, that would be.
that's what we're
purchased
trying to,
with-
That's what we're trying to do.
Okay,
because if we control the land around, we can't put up.
right.
A retail space.
It's a backfire.
But with us clearly not wanting to do that, to allow that kind of thing to happen, and I'm sure we can't sell it for $2 million. You know, so, just if that's not.
So when are we don't have a timeline on that.
Can you reach out to, I guess I can't reach out to anybody, can you reach out to him? And ask him to have that conversation? Doesn't hurt to have a call.
We definitely don't want to lose sight of the village playgrounds, and I think it would be nice to kind of start chipping away and kind of getting a timeframe or an idea around, what even would it cost, for each one of those, just to get a rough estimate and have a couple companies maybe come out.
Yeah, this August 9th that I got this verification from Tanya on this available money. So now we'll move forward and get possible multiple part discounts. We'll start working on that, on the proposals from different contractors. Once again, there is only a few.
Yeah.
There's a lot around the country, but there's a few locally that have done, I mean, many parks, but we're already working with all three of the big ones, right? Two.
So is there any way, like, let's say we hire one and they're not great, so in 2 years we approve more money for 8 more? Would the next company be able to match the same kind of playground stuff we're doing now?
Don't know.
Not sure.
Most companies deal with.
Yeah, they
different
represent their own
manufacturers.
manufacturer.
So that needs to come into play with that decision, and who's been around for a while, we trust would still be around.
Did we use pretty much the same manufacturer on the same that we put here that was put into the neighborhoods?
Yes.
Is there anything that can be done with the old stuff? Just check.
In what sense? Scrapping?
Yeah. So, I mean, does it cost a lot to get rid of? Could it be?
You know, in this proposal, there is a breakdown on the cost of the removal of the park. I can't tell you what it is as I'm sitting here. But for us to manage that weight and volume, I don't know how we would do it.
Call for volunteers.
Yeah, we have nowhere to put it, no way to haul it.
Who wants
no,
So sometimes there are charitable groups who will take this stuff out for you. They can have it, so you can eliminate the demolition cost and get rid of it and also get it's a non-taxable entity. You also get a tax credit
So you're donating.
effectively.
Yeah,
But
it's
they
deteriorating so much, I wonder if anybody would really want it.
Sorry?
For liability purposes.
It's deteriorating so much, they might
Well,
not want it.
because they're taking it apart, taking it out, redoing it, then you mitigate a lot of that. But
Are these at all for salvage, to take that stuff out, like the playground, would be a sort of salvage value to any of that?
But it's just steel. Steel's cheap. They don't get much for it, but I'm sure they do salvage it. I'm sure they don't just waste it. I'm sure they salvage it and put a little bit back in their pocket.
Does there have to be certain criteria? And I only say that because, I mean, you go into Costco, you look at the playground website, they have those lifetime ones that they're nice, they're metal, they look like they hold up well. The villages aren't necessarily huge. I mean, is there a possibility of utilizing something like that?
I would say no, in my opinion, to that. I would definitely approach a commercial provider, just because of the liability that may be tied to buying something from a retailer. Who's gonna put it in?
Well, I
Who's
almost
gonna
wonder
maintain
if
it?
it's commercial though.
I'm
I know
sorry?
they have some commercial companies they partner with.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that route. I don't know if council would recommend taking that route. I would definitely work, for instance, a pool, Sam's might have a pool contractor you could have a pool done with, but we wouldn't want to go through Sam's for this mess over here. So I wouldn't recommend that unless the board wants to take that direction. But I would not. I would stay with a large manufacturer who knows what they're doing. They come in, take it out, put it back in, and you're done.
Most of that stuff, if you look at the packaging and stuff in there, it all said not for private homeowner use only or something. So typically, in all their documentation, it precludes the use on a more commercial basis.
Okay, Best of 19, any further discussion on that, or we move forward?
Anything, John, from your side?
No, we should have the flyers by Friday, and they just ship, and then, we'll work with the rest of the resident council to distribute those. I ordered 1,000, so hopefully that reaches a larger population in word of mouth. And that way we can have people that, sign up for the website, and then that way if something changes, we have an easy way to reach out to people, either by phone or by email address. We looked at, possibly sending it out through regular mail, but I didn't want to only have $700 through, postage. So yeah, besides that, we're still sticking with the same criteria for the opposition.
Yes.
We will include probably taxes. I'll reach out to Taylor just to make sure I understand the facts, that if it does go from commercial to residential, which has already been published by the planning commission, so it's public knowledge, how that affects our taxes. Because it going from commercial to residential, I think there's like a $3 million difference. And somebody's got to cover that.
And that's one of the things, or my conversation that I had with the commissioners is, you're taking away an economic boom for the county by doing that as well.
So yeah, nothing like that. But just because I have, no gavel, you guys were talking about $500,000 or whatever, and then you started talking about S12 and how that money is really allocated towards it. So doesn't somebody have to make a decision at some point? Are you using it for the playground? Are you using it for this never-ending process of trying to purchase land? Right?
We're gonna get into that in a second here.
Okay, sure.
It's all right. All right, next on the agenda, we need to have our public hearing regarding adopting fiscal year 2021 and 2022 budget. It's resolution 2021-08 and then resolution 2021-911 O&M assessments for fiscal year as well. So I need to begin with a motion to open a public hearing.
So move.
Give it Tom, and look for a second.
I'll second.
Second by Jack, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. So we have a public hearing open at this time. Is there any board discussion before I ask the audience to make any additional comment? Any changes for the budget?
I just asked, as we go through this budget, we look at some of the unknown things that have popped up, most recently for us, and that we maybe look at maybe taking some of those projects that we have out there and maybe kind of scaling back until we're kind of out of the woods, and then we can then move forward.
Yeah, I think the way we have everything allocated now is good. And then as we go through the year, like you said, if we have a major expense that's not allocated for, we could say, okay, we're gonna allocate that towards the reserve portion or the capital expenditure version, capital outlay, I should say. And that may scale back our total project money, if you will, that we set aside for projects to cover that expense that you're alluding to, if necessary. We just need, we have the autonomy to do that throughout the year as we.
Yeah, so right now, we're just approving kind of like the high level, and as we work with.
Right now, we're approving a final budget. The high level is already approved, so we can't do anything with the assessments at this point, really, but.
But we can still work to save money throughout the year.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the only thing we're approving at this point is the allocation of where the money is in line items. And again, throughout the year, if we need to change those things, we can do that. So I guess to answer your question, yeah, at this point, we're not gonna get any more or any less money unless you have to decrease assessments all of a sudden, but, so, yeah, we're essentially, we'll be looking to approve it as presented, with the allocations that the board has already worked through over the last couple of months. Any other additional comments from the board regarding this?
The only thing I had is on capital reserves, we've got that 340,000 was the last comment that John was making, or Josh was making about moving that up to 400.
At this point, yeah, so we have, right now we have 170 set for capital outlay. And then for reserves, we have the 340. So
But I'm talking about our budgeted amount to put into the reserve, capital reserves.
Correct. I mean, theoretically, we would just pull it out of capital outlay, but at the same time, we did the 340 because that's what we did last year. We wanted to keep it consistent so the paper trail looked appropriate. But at the end of the day, the 340 and the 170 are really both being allocated for reserve reserve projects for the course of this year to be spent. So if you want to shift it to 400, you could just be taking it out of capital outlay and moving it from one line to the other line. We're not making or losing any money based on that change.
I wasn't quite in agreement, not agreement, but understanding where Josh's point, because I think he had a bigger pile of money that he thought he had, that some of these projects could be done in this year.
Well, what we did, so what Josh did before is we originally had all 510,000 lined in the capital outlay and nothing in reserves. And then he said, let's go ahead and move that money to 340 back to reserves to make it so that we're not looking like we're not contributing anything, because in reality it is going to reserves and we're using that reserve money to pay for some of these projects. So the way it's set up now is the way that you guys have kind of designed it in the past to make it look as though we're doing it the way we are doing it, which is
consistent.
Keeping this money for reserve projects, not new projects entirely.
We're just trying to spend that.
Because a lot of it, we're using the money to fix and, repair existing stuff for the most part, so.
And should we be successful at having them pay us back for the pool, we can always kind of revisit.
If we recover more money, we can put that back into the project fund actually. So, I don't see any reason to change anything at this point, unless you guys feel otherwise.
The other thing is, even if it's in the budget, we're not bound to have to spend the money if we don't.
Well, and that's what I was saying, like, some of the projects that we have, and I just, again, I feel that, we have some things that have come up that we didn't expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's take care of those unexpected things and get our community where it should be before we go and start working on other projects and we still got stuff not working.
Right. At the end of the day, you guys are still gonna manage these projects and oversee. So, Teresa and John are gonna go out tomorrow and blow $500,000 on stuff just because we approved the budget. So, I feel pretty confident that the way it's set up is good, and there's gonna be hiccups throughout the year that we're gonna make adjustments for, as any other year, any other project is ever.
Well, I don't see a need to go back and pick out individual line items and revise them at this point. It's pretty much, we've done that twice already. So we're ready to go ahead and make a recommendation that we approve, accept the budget.
I'm gonna hear out the audience real quick, just to give a public hearing a chance to go through the process, and then I'll go ahead and take that motion from you. John, is there anything that you wanted to comment on regarding the budget?
Yes, sir. So from a resident's perspective, and obviously you guys are residents as well, the biggest thing here is that we're not having a net increase. So our amounts stay the same for not having one. So that's a great job. That's how we should do it, all the time. Nobody wants their taxes to increase anymore. From the non-ad valorem perspective, we can't control the regular taxes. The second thing was,
Actually, half the people's taxes went down, right?
right, that was gonna be my second point, is for the people that did have their taxes, or their non-ad valorem taxes go down, CDD fees go down, if there's a way, I don't know what the notification process is, or who it really affects, but, some way to communicate that out, what their savings are, or a website that they can go to see what those savings are. If you guys can tell me, I can, do my best to try and make sure everybody knows. Because it's hard to say, hey, everyone south of the power lines, you probably got something. There's going to be weird cases where they already paid all of their stuff, so they weren't even part of the roll.
Yes.
If they paid off their bond, they won't see any change.
Yes, sir, that's what I'm saying. I agree.
I thought we already published something back when we did this bond refi for that.
Yeah, I thought we did.
I know Scott typed up something, or bond guy typed up something that I thought I had sent.
Can we try and make sure you see that again? Because I think there was I saw that too, it was per 100,000 value of home or whatever. So that'd be good to.
Maybe we should on the whole website. I mean, now I know we're having issues with our website vendor, and nothing's getting from the website, so. But yeah,
We had talked to it, but it never actually got.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is, I come into this area, and before I was looking for details, I was like, oh, this looks nice. So then, I'll look right there where the control boxes are, and I see that there's a depression. It's like maybe there was some work that needs to be done there. I can see the little cracks at the top. So I understand that there's, a time to come in and redo everything. But, with everything that's going on with the pool and all that stuff, maybe next year isn't the time to do it. So, there's a lot of, whenever we look at those 5 projects for next year and the limited amount of funds that are associated to them, if I have a choice between, a park that everyone's going to use from the community versus, cabinets and stuff inside to make it look nice, form over function, right? What's the biggest ROI? And I think from a resident perspective, it would be out there where you've got kids all the time and maybe not as much community involvement inside the clubhouse. I'm not saying let this place, go poop. It's just, if there was priorities, maybe this would be the second one as opposed to the first.
Understood.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Ted, did you have anything you wanted to mention?
Spend less, collect more.
Yeah.
No, I think generally they're doing, as good a job as they can do with the limits they have. I think the staff is under a lot of pressure from a lot of different directions to do it. They keep a very, pleasant outlook and a very good interface with everybody. There's always going to be problems. It gets older, it doesn't get newer. It's always going to happen. Technology changes, things get look out of date, but you just do the best you do. So I can't be diplomatic.
Thank you. All right, we'll conclude the public hearing then. Look for I guess we need a motion for any hearing or not really?
You can conclude the
So,
public
yeah, let's go ahead and close. So look for a motion to close the hearing.
I'm looking to close.
Motion by Sean,
Second.
second by Jack, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, close hearing. At this time, we look for a motion to approve resolution, adopt resolution 2021-08, adopting the fiscal year budget, and the resolution 2021-09, levying on assessments for fiscal year 21-22. Oh, I was just going to encompass them all of that.
I missed that you included that earlier.
Yeah.
Make sure.
Yes. Yeah, that was specified. Unless there's any further comment from the public on the assessments. So then we look for a motion for 2021-08 and 2021-09 adoption for these resolutions.
So move.
Motion by Jay. Second by Sean, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, I have resolution 2021-10, that's setting the meeting schedule for fiscal year 21-22. This is a mock-up of the current meeting schedule we have now for the last year, so unless you guys want to change anything moving forward.
Is there any reason to be meeting twice a month?
Is there a meeting?
To be meeting twice a month?
I don't think so.
You think you can cover everything that's needed?
There'd be a lot of additional costs in doing twice a month, so
Okay.
just to give you a heads up on that.
Yeah, I think we, talked about it before too, I think we do a good job of like, I'm gonna try to help with school stuff, just so we can still take action and not be caught up in once a month decisions, but. So I would say if there's something crazy going on, yeah, we can meet, but.
It has to be a pretty high threshold, I think, to call a special meeting. We did a couple during the street tree project, that we need to have extra, one, to get extra feedback from the community, the workshops and so forth. But these are more operational decisions that really the residents really can't help us with at that point. I mean, they may have disparate ideas, but may not be based in fact, so we just share your ignorance at that point.
So emergency needs only.
There can always be a meeting added for,
So I'm not opposed to having it, but it's gotta have, there needs to be a pretty high threshold for it.
That makes
To
sense.
justify having an extra meeting.
Thank you.
Look for a motion to adopt resolution 21-10 then.
I'll motion.
Motion by Tom, second by Jack, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Tab 8, you have resolution 2021-11.
Change this on now.
This is to redesignate officers in the district. Josh left, he was our vice chair, we don't have a vice chair anymore, so with that new board appointment, we want to redesignate seats. So I'm looking for a motion to nominate a chairperson and vice chair. Any nominations?
Who would like to do it? Does it matter?
Volunteer versus
Doesn't
volunteer.
matter. I mean, Jack, did you want to maintain your position?
I'll stay on this as president, that's.
So I motion
Sure.
that he stay on as chair.
We need a vice chair, though, I mean, that's Josh's position, so that we all have to step in. Andy's,
I'm new, I'm learning. This is why we have musical chairs.
So I guess because I took Josh's S19, I think, I'll take the vice chair or something.
that's all right.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion for Jack to serve as chairman, Sean will serve as vice chairman, and the others will be assistant secretaries on the board. So,
I'll motion to.
I'll second.
motion by Tom, second by Lauren. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Presentation of pressure washing services, we did that already. Tab 9, you have the minutes of the board of supervisors meeting on July 14th, 2021. If there's no questions, comments, or concerns, look for a motion to approve as presented.
I'll motion.
Motion by Tom,
Second.
second by Jack, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And in tab 10, you have the O&M expenditures for the enterprise fund. In tab 11, you have the O&M general fund expenditures, both for June of 2021. Look for a motion to just approve both in one motion here, unless there's any questions or comments.
I'll motion.
Motion by Tom,
I'll second.
second by Sean, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And supervisor requests, start far end here. Any supervisor requests this time?
Nope.
Sean, any supervisor requests?
My only request, and again, I can't harp on this enough, is, as we continue to try to put our best foot forward for our community, if we can look at maybe halting whatever projects that we've got going on right now, allow them to go ahead and finish off, but any new projects that we have, let's kind of hold off, possibly, until we get, again, our current issues under control.
Some holes to get out first.
Yeah, big ones.
So once we get out of the holes, then we can kind of revisit. the
We can kind of
process.
revisit the different projects that we have.
Sounds fair.
Can I just make one suggestion? I agree, and I think John and I talked about that as well. But I feel like I will put the playground on hold until this is all done. And if we have the money towards the end of the budget season, we can go ahead and start that. Since the money would still be in the budget, if nothing else comes. But I would like to get the cafe finished and complete, so it's not piecemealed, and that's very minimal.
So I would say if the project right now is already scheduled, let that go ahead and continue. But any new projects going forward from the ones that we have scheduled, let's put off until we're out of it.
So that includes finishing up the cafe at 20 grand.
So
I don't want to
if,
start that in
That was
a busy.
so is it already, has it already?
Nothing has, no, this is a new budget cycle. So basically, we had it painted, the floor's coming in next week, we got new shades, and
It's 3/4 of the way down.
it's, yeah.
Okay. I mean, if we're 3/4 of the way done, let's go ahead and finish that, but anything further beyond that, let's just come.
Do you think we could just do that in this year's budget, since we're already under budget?
I don't think by the time we get the proposals and everything together, we'd have time.
Well, we might still
I can
have some
try.
money from this year that we can apply towards that.
Yeah,
Yeah, why don't you try?
yeah, I'll try to get it all done before the fiscal year ends.
That would be my only request right now.
Jack?
It came up as a result of Teresa is, as you know, is undergoing surgery next month. Looking at our benefit package or lack of benefit package for short-term or long-term disability. I don't know what these programs would cost based on the number of people. We've only got 3 full-time people that would be involved in it. But she's using all your paid time off now to cover.
Yeah, I should have my paid time off.
But we don't have a disability. Is there any interest? I mean, this kind of flies in the face of what you just said. Are we looking at that? Protect our staff, and provide some relief that way. It's a potential thing, it would be cost with insurance, but at least if we had a need going forward.
And then we would also have to look at John's full-time employees.
Well, there's how many full-time do we have now?
Well, my whole staff is full-time. So I have 5.
So
I have 3.
That's a total of 8.
But the problem with insurance is nobody wants medical here, and we can't go through, that's why you all approve the stipend.
We have a stipend not for the medical, we're talking about short-term disability.
Oh, is that, so you can purchase that separate? It's not included with regular medical policies?
I think that's normally through the insurance, through the health insurance, to my understanding. It would be like a third party that we would have approved.
I can see if Aegis would offer that. So, I mean, I think we have workers come through them, so I can see if they offer any kind of.
Can you have a standalone, I'm sorry, I guess the question, can you have a standalone program like that?
I have to ask them. I mean, are you 2 salary though versus the other full-time people? I mean, you could possibly do it for salary positions.
You have 5 and I have 3 salaries.
Oh, okay, so they're all salary, okay.
I mean, it's something that you could look into and just maybe bring it back.
I can look into that. I know some people do those kind of things, so. I don't know what your surgery is for, and if that would be true for this kind of pre-existing thing. I don't know how that would work with health insurance and coverage and all that stuff, but I can ask around and see.
Okay, well, it came up in discussion, so I didn't want to bring it before the board, so you're at least aware of it. A little late for this trip around, but I don't want, with all the other disparaging things that are going on, I don't want us to be accused of running this thing by short-shirting our employees.
You can ask Aegis about it or see if there's any other recommendations as far as standalone policy like that.
I don't know what the cost would be on it, but I want to look at it. Is that something you can do with staff, or?
Yeah, I can look into that.
Do you have some contacts?
I might reach out to Tom and see if if he just says no and I'm starting from scratch, I'll probably reach out to Tom and see if he's got an option or two.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lauren?
Nothing new.
In that case, look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
By Tom? Wait a second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Lauren.
Just to clarify, how are we gonna, if I sign these contracts tonight for mediation work? How is that?
I need to revise the agreement.
Yeah, you don't have to about that.
Just
like all new contracts, yeah.
One week.
I've got to have those dates.
Meetings are in, I know.
Well,